I wasn't ever suicidal, but I was ready to die. You know, I've lived a good life. To me, I was like, you know, I've done enough in one lifetime to where, you know, if God wants to take me out, it wouldn't be soon enough. It's hard to break that. You're in that spin cycle. You know, some people don't make it out, dude. Some people are just stuck in the spin cycle until they dwindle. My deepest fear is for me not to reach the levels in which I know I'm capable of. My deepest fear is falling short of my expectations due to my own actions.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be? Brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us. It's in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson.
Welcome to Powerful Beyond Measure, a podcast about radical transformation, gritty stories, and the undeniable power of second chances. I'm your host, Matt Culp, a man in long-term recovery who believes in the power of grace, grit, and growth. Each week, we sit down with real people who've overcome real struggles, from addiction to adversity. No fluff, no filters, just truth, healing, and hope. And the truth is, you are powerful beyond measure, and it's time you knew it. On today's episode, our guest is Traven, and pretty much you're just going to introduce yourself, where you're from, and then we'll just kind of go spitball from there.
Bet.
Cool. Perfect.
Appreciate you for having me, first of all. My name's Travan Hill. Born in St. Louis, Missouri. Moved to Murfreesboro early to mid-90s. I was about 3-4 years old when I moved to Murfreesboro.
Okay.
That was kind of the first real experience I had in any form of culture shock.
So you're born in 90, right?
Yeah, 90 on the dot.
So you missed the St. Lunatics.
Oh no, I was here for the St. Lunatics, the Nelly. I was there for all that. But I wasn't in the direct coordinates of my family. You know, by the time I heard them down here in Tennessee, they were already doing their rounds in Missouri. So,
Okay. Well, that was hot back then.
they were the guys, bro. Man, Nelly, Chingy, Murphy Lee, St. Louis had a nice little run of artists there for a while. So
Yeah.
I was able to brag and be like, yeah, man, my aunt knows Nelly, dude. You know, whether she did or not, I don't know. She swore she did, but you know, I come from a family of degenerate gamblers. It's funny, my family's 50-50. They're very, very religious, very church going. And then, you know, I've got a slew of alcoholic, drug addict, gambling.
Street gambling or casino?
Both, man, both. My granddad used to have taverns, R.I.P. Grandpops. He used to have taverns where he would, he had his own casino slot machines. They'd gamble on pool tables. They had poker rooms. My mom, my cousins, they could gamble with the best of them, legit. That's like their go-to.
Is this legal then?
It's like it's kind of like the Italian mafia type deal. Like, you know, it's going on, but it's just like it's frowned upon, not spoken about. You know?
Yeah, I used to live in the city here in Tennessee, small town, and they had the whole city was ate up with it.
Yeah.
And what happened was early 2000s, this guy had brought a bunch of machines from like Florida. He bought a bunch and
Put them in the gas stations and
put
stuff.
them in the gas
Yep.
stations, put them in the back rooms, and like so. Like when I moved there, you would see them in the gas stations. But the more acclimated to the community that I became, because I used to play pool and gamble, you would just walk into a store and it would say like employees only.
Yeah.
Just like walk past.
You
Like,
already know what it-
there's a whole new room. There's a whole
Yep.
room back
That's
there.
how my granddad had it. And St. Louis, gambling's legal. They got casinos and all that stuff. They got used to be a bunch of river boats. I think, pretty sure there might be one or two left now. I haven't been to St. Louis in a while. I don't know, but because they already have casinos and all that stuff. It's like I said, it's really just kind of overlooked. As long as nothing too nefarious happens, no one really says anything about it. So, and to be honest, when it comes to my story in general, a lot of it is kind of based off of that narrative, coming from the trenches of St. Louis. And when I tell people, like, don't get me wrong, Memphis is the hood, but my cousins, Memphis was like a getaway to them. Like that was like a vacation compared to St. Louis itself. Now Memphis has gradually gotten worse, but coming up in the 90s, early 2000, I'd see stuff go down in St. Louis, and I only spent winters and summers there, but I hated it, man. I would be like, Mama, why are we here, dude? Like this place is reckless, Murfreesboro coming up in that time, it was very few black people. I mean, Murfreesboro has a pretty steady black foundation.
It's got more and more.
Yeah, and it's grown as well. But when I got here in the 90s, going into the 2000, I could count how many black kids were in my grade. Versus in St. Louis, I think I'd never seen a white person till I came to Tennessee.
Really?
Yeah. Like when I would go back and visit St. Louis, there were not white people where my family lived.
Well, Memphis is kind of different in the sense, and St. Louis might be like this because it's a southern city, Midwest, but like if you go to a lot of cities, like this part is the hood.
Correct.
Memphis is like you'll have like $1 million home on one street, the whole street, and then you skip one street and then it's the hood, and then it happens again and again like that.
So
it's not really like don't go to this part of the whole city is like that. But it also, when it comes to like criminal or drug dealing, like Memphis isn't like you can go down 5th Street and that's where you cop.
Yeah.
Like we don't own this block.
Yeah.
Like everybody's like trapping out of houses or rent cars.
Okay.
So like it's not necessarily, there is some areas like that, but it's very like Chicago is like O block.
Yep.
Like Memphis has no,
yeah,
like everything is.
St. Louis is the same way. St. Louis is very much so. And to be honest, I haven't been to St. Louis as an adult, golly, since my grandmother passed away. But I mean, it's just the city is just going through it from my knowledge. Now, again, I haven't been back. Every side was the ghetto. Every side was the hood. But you might have had a little bit less drama, less drugs, less shootings, depending on what hood you're in. But it's nothing for your street to be on the news in St. Louis, very much so.
How was the culture shock from here to there for you?
So I mean, they kind of varied. I'm not gonna say they varied. They were very much so one and the same, but on two different ends of the spectrum. So, coming up here, I remember being in like 2nd grade at Christiana Elementary, and there's like 5 black kids in the whole school. Like literally something would happen to one of the other black kids and they'd be like, hey, your cousin got in trouble today. I'm like, I don't know who that is. Like, you know what I mean? But then I'd go back to St. Louis, my cousins and all my family, they would be like, why do you dress like that? Why do you talk like that? You're a white boy. You know what I mean? So like,
so it was like a duality.
It was like a double duality because down here I was too ghetto, up there I was too white. And I just never felt accepted for the longest time. Anywhere I went, I would have to kind of put on a facade. I would have to like put on a mask, which kind of slowly but surely became my identity, to be able to transform no matter what room I went into. If I had to if I had to tighten it up and be more professional, that was very natural. If I had to let loose and get a little ratchet, it just became second nature. Read the room, become what they want. And that's how my childhood went up into adolescence. Comedy was my go-to because I knew if I could make people laugh, it was like a form of acceptance. You know what I mean? Like, who doesn't want the funny guy around? So that was my go-to, man. I've always been the class clown. I've always been the goofball. I've always been, the guy that's willing to take it there. And it just became second nature, to be honest.
I think now they call it code switching.
Yeah, and which is crazy because I've done it my entire life. I even remember in college, I had a house kind of similar to how I was speaking. My family, we would gamble in there. I mean, we'd have some guys on the TV playing 2K, another TV where guys are playing Madden. We're shooting dice in one corner, playing spades in the kitchen. And my roommate was this white guy I grew up with here in Murfreesboro named Ethan. And so any given time, we'd have like preppy college boys. I'm talking about like the frat boys, go Pike, like we'd have those guys in there. And then I'd have my homies from like Knoxville, Nashville. And I remember one time this dude was like, how does Traven do that, man? Watch this. And I remember I was talking to one of my white friends and he was like, yo, Traven. I was like, what's good? And then my other white friend said, yo, Traven. And I was like, what's good? I was like, what's going on, my guy? And then he's like, he just switches naturally. And I've never known for it to be code switching. For me, that was just a way of life. It was more of I'm not gonna say a defense mechanism, but it was just a habit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I never even noticed, I just knew if I was in St. Louis, I could not speak correctly because that's a sign of weakness. And I knew that if I was in Murfreesboro, I couldn't use too much slang because that was a sign of ignorance.
You said something earlier, and like, I guess I would, just out of curiosity more than, it's a touchy subject for me to bring up. So I'm just going to, whatever. But
lay it on me.
You said when I was in Murfreesboro, I had to act black. And then when I was up there, they said I act too white. Or no, you said when I was here, I was too ghetto. But when I was up there, they said I was too white.
Yeah.
But like that in itself is a controversial term. Like, because you're saying like, you're saying black people are ghetto, and the opposite of that is white.
Correct. Yeah.
But you were feeling that from
both sides, and that's what I've heard often that racism, black people can't be racist.
Well,
yeah, and I'm not even going to go into that whole realm. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to lose any followers, but I will say that
all my friends were black growing up, and I can attest to that.
Yeah,
they were just as racist as
and I would get, I had a core of white friends who knew me personally. They even still joke and say like, you're the most racist black person we've ever met but they say it because I'll say some anti-black stuff. I'll be like, I'm not going over there with them, and they'll be like, why? I'll be like, they're ghetto, and they'll be like, dude, that you can't say that, and I'm like, but
you can't say that.
But if you are in the black community, I'm not even joking when I say this. Black people don't like other black people. They don't like new black people. They don't like the black people they don't know. It's like this crabs in a barrel mentality that they have. And then when I would go back and visit my family in St. Louis, I would get it worse from them than I ever got in Murfreesboro. The way I talked, the way I dressed, sports I played, it was never black enough. It was always, oh, you're a white boy. Oh, it was either white boy or your country, or, and I didn't understand it as a kid, of course, because.
Was this from older people or
this was from
peers?
This is from cousins who were the same age as me, aunts. I never understood it.
Well, I grew up in Memphis, so like prior to my generation, what would happen is like the people, say the bus driver was a black guy or a teacher, or like in that generation, they held the black people, the kids, like to a higher level
Oh,
of
for sure.
accountability.
For sure.
So I was wondering if that was happening.
I mean, so my immediate family, my big brother was the first person in my family to go to and graduate from college. So he sang in the church choir, he played in the band, he ran track. He was like the idea of
He
what
was like the star child of the family.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so. And I was in his shadow, I felt. Now it's crazy, fast forward, my big brother is the biggest and best support I've ever had in my life. Like the closest thing I've ever had to a father figure. He's my guy. But I envied him growing up because he was like held at the level of, this is the standard. This is what you should be able to accomplish and some. And I was just like, that's not fair, But I always heard stories about him from other people, and they were more success. Like my brother, he was different for sure. But like, I'd go to the hood of St. Louis and they'd be like, man, your brother is crazy, dude. He used to walk around with nunchucks and ninja stars and like nobody messed with him. Nobody fucked with him. And I'd be like, I mean, that's corny as hell if you ask me. Like, like nunchucks and ninja stars and y'all got guns, you know what I'm saying? So I never quite understood why my family looked at me differently. They definitely held my immediate family up to a higher standard, especially with the way my brother was able to achieve. My mom, she worked in the court systems. She worked alongside judges and attorneys and rubbed elbows with some very prestigious people. So you got from her to my brother, we were just kind of looked at as like, oh, they got it all. They got it figured out. We're the one family that broke away from the rest of my family in St. Louis. We came down to Tennessee. We had land. We had a nice house, cars, pool table, basketball goal. Like we were like the Cosbys of our family, the Huxtables.
What was the reason for the move?
My mom always said she didn't want us to grow up in that environment.
Okay. So that was the reason.
Yeah, I commend her for that. She met a guy, moved down to Tennessee. Their marriage didn't work out, but she persisted. Single mom for many, many years. She taught me a lot when it comes to my education. I mean, I used to have to read encyclopedias. If I got honor roll, all A, if I got A's and B's, it wasn't good enough. It had to be all A's. If I got all A's, my 93 should have been a 97.
I was gonna ask you what nefarious means.
Yeah, man. Like, and I tell people all the time, like, I had to, like, nothing would piss me off more than when I'd be sitting there struggling with my spelling homework or like vocabulary, and my mom would be like, go look it up in the encyclopedia, and I'd be like, I don't know how to spell it. How am I gonna look it up in the encyclopedia? So, she was very, very adamant about my education.
Was she a college graduate?
She went to college, if I'm not mistaken. When she got pregnant with my big brother, that's when she stepped away from college. She was able to get a job in the court systems up in St. Louis. She was able to make that transition from there down here. For the longest time, from my childhood, she was the only black woman that worked at the courthouse right here in Murfreesboro, the old courthouse.
Okay.
Now, of course, that's changed a lot. But yeah, she made that switch.
When I was growing up, people were graduating and coming to MTSU, and I was like, I never even got super curious about where's MTSU, but
yeah,
there was a lot of people graduating and going to MTSU.
It's now, if I'm not mistaken, the biggest undergraduate college in Tennessee.
I could believe that.
Yeah. But it definitely, in the 90s, early 2000, that's when it was just now starting to hit its stride, and that's where you start to see a lot of people from Memphis make that transition over. A lot of people from East Tennessee, West Tennessee, they start to converge here. I tell people often, like, before Nashville was Nashville, a lot of people moved here to go to school in Murfreesboro and work out of Nashville. Yeah.
Nashville has done an incredible job.
It's crazy.
Like, over the past 20 years, because me getting clean, like, I never really went to Nashville.
Yeah.
I moved here. So about 8-9 years in recovery, like, I went to Nashville. like to go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
I never went.
Yeah, I mean, well, back
But-
then you wouldn't have wanted to go.
When I went, I was very surprised at like how nice it is, clean it is, and how big it's gotten compared to Memphis. Memphis has done a terrible job bringing industry.
No, dude, I actually saw a statistic the other day. Like there's more people leaving Memphis annually than are being born and are moving there. Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, like I think I don't know too much, but I think that when the Oilers were in Memphis for 1 year,
Yeah,
they didn't want to offer them or build the stadium.
Nope.
So I think that when the Titans came, I'm assuming that Nashville agreed to build the stadium and a tax advantage. And then throughout that period, they've done that repeatedly for other companies, even Murfreesboro. Like, I assume that Amazon got a huge tax break to come to here.
Oh, yeah.
So
Amazon, Nissan,
yeah, and the 50 companies that are attached to Nissan for the seats and the batteries and the parts. So like,
and by bringing the jobs here, you broaden the overall, and often people forget that Nashville has 3 professional sports teams. Yeah, they have the Titans, the Predators, and Nashville Soccer Club. NSC.
Club,
And it's funny because not many people know this. NSC has won the only Tennessee championship there is.
Really?
Yeah, they're legit. If you've never been to an NSC game, you gotta go. Dude, you gotta check it out. Even if you're not a big soccer fan, just the environment, the culture. Football is a very American sport. Soccer is global.
Global, yeah.
So you go to a soccer game and you're gonna see all different walks of life. All different cultures. There's multiple languages being spoken. Like it's truly an experience. And the tickets are cheap because no one goes to watch soccer here. It's kind of sad, but
I'll try it out.
Dude, you should. You gotta check it out, man. You can get some good seats for low. And when I used to go to Nashville growing up, because like I said, as I started to go into like my rebellious phase, we'd skip school and we would go to like Hickory Hollow Mall before it closed down. You don't know about Hickory Hollow, but Hickory Hollow was the spot in Antioch, which was like your entry point to Nashville. And you could go to Nashville and you would run into people that you knew or that you knew of. You go down there with a friend group and you come across another friend group, or you might see your cousins down there. They had teen clubs out there back then. You go to a teen club and you'd see like a group of people from another school in Murfreesboro. Now I go to Nashville and I talk to 10 people. I might find one that's from Tennessee, not even Nashville. They might be from Tennessee. I went a few weeks ago to a friend's birthday dinner, and I still love to talk to random people. I talked to 3 different dudes from Germany who they didn't know each other. They didn't come together. Just 3 random dudes, all from Germany. And I'm like, well, that's crazy, dude. Nashville's growth is right now it's unmatched, and I'm about tired of it. But it's bringing a lot more business and a lot more opportunities to the Middle Tennessee area.
Yeah, for sure.
Prior to this growth, everyone was either Gatlinburg, Knoxville, Memphis, and then like immediate Nashville. Now everything's trickling down to Murfreesboro, which is good and bad. But
at some point, I mean, they talked about like annexing it. I heard something.
What do you mean?
Like Nashville would exceed into.
Oh yeah, no,
further.
I believe it. I believe it.
Which in Memphis they're talking. I think Tennessee wants to eradicate. They want to make Memphis its own, like West Tennessee.
I mean,
like DC.
Yeah. Well, from what I've been told, people in Memphis, they don't consider themselves to be Tennessean. Yeah, no. They're like, no, I'm from Memphis. And they're like, that's in Tennessee. They're like, no, it's in Memphis. Yeah, which is crazy to me.
Which Memphis is, when you live in Memphis, like South Haven and Olive Branch, which are in Mississippi, and West Memphis, which is in Arkansas, is Memphis. You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay. So I guess it makes sense. They're like in that trifecta where they're just like.
Yeah. Like you still think you're in Memphis if you're in South Haven.
Oh yeah.
That's
Anytime I've been, once I guess cross the bridge and go to the casino or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm always like, where we at in Memphis? They're like, you're not in Memphis.
Not in
And I'm like,
Memphis,
oh, okay. Well, I forget it's that close right there on the cusp of those 3 states. So
like
it makes
the
sense.
Dog track or whatever.
No, I don't know about no dog racing.
Well, I don't think they dog race any there, but that's what it's called. It's like right across the bridge. It's
Is it? They got
Southland.
Okay, I do know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
They don't. I don't think they dog. They do it digitally. Like
oh yeah, where you gotta watch the screens.
Yeah.
Screw that. If I'm gonna gamble, I want to touch it. I want to feel it. Yeah, I need the substance, man. I can't even go to the what's it called? Like the video poker or whatever it is. And like they got this one casino I went to where everything's digital. So if you're playing roulette, you're playing on the screen, and I'm like, screw that. I can't, no, I don't like it. I need to touch it. I need the substance.
With the gambling in your family, who has gambling?
It's definitely another one of my addictions that I've had to really focus on not focusing on, because it's a natural high. You know what I mean? I still find myself playing poker with friends every now and again, but it's different now that I'm sober. I'm not chasing that high as much.
It's like a thing you like to do.
Yeah, it's definitely more. It's more of a skill set. I like numbers. I like math. I like socializing. So you got a lot of that kind of just incorporates right there in its own. That kind of started in high school. That was playing poker was another way for me to get in another crowd of people. I've always been multifaceted when it comes to my skill set, because it opens up the doors to the amount of people I'm able to be around.
I wasn't multifaceted in my skill set, but I was definitely like you, where I would code switch. But code switch is probably not a good word, because somewhere around 8th or 9th grade, I really figured out, like, if I'm myself, people will love me more
genuine,
and I don't have to shift.
Man, you said 8th or 9th grade you figured that out?
8th or 9th grade.
I figured that out like a year ago, dude.
Well,
I swear. So props to you. You're much smarter than I was as a kid.
Well, I would say that, like, I was fully code shifted prior to that.
Yeah.
So, like, I was like,
you had your black card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I just kind of came to an awareness that wasn't really who I was.
Yeah.
And I still was able to mingle with more and be liked by more people.
Correct. And I mean, once, like, and not to scrutinize my community, the black community, we can sense and we know.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know when
we can tell it's not even about like who accepts black people, but who's comfortable around black people.
Yeah.
We can instantly tell.
Yeah. So if I'm showing up as a white kid and I'm acting as a black guy,
that's all. Like that's
you're just like, nah.
Yeah. That's like we can see the facade in that.
Correct.
But when you show up and you're yourself, you're genuine.
Well, also, like, a black guy wants to hang out with. If he wants to hang out with a white guy, he wants to hang out with a white guy.
Yeah. You want like when I'm with my white friends,
jump off cliffs.
Yeah,
like,
we're trying to. Yeah, where's the boat at, dog? Like, where's the boat?
I don't want to do what I've been doing.
Yeah, I can go to the hood and do that. And oftentimes, I remember growing up, the term wigger was the white guy trying to act black. But no, it's very noticeable when you can come in black atmospheres and be comfortable, not be scared, not be putting on a facade, or not be acting a certain type of way. I see it like I see a lot of like white rappers, and you can tell which ones grew up in the trenches versus the ones who are trying to, put on the act.
There's also white guys that really grew up in the hood, and they're really
no, they're
ghetto guys.
They got the golds in. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They're not faking.
Like they knew nothing but that.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, those guys they're black.
They're black.
There's no difference. The only difference is the color of their skin, which that I think when it comes to like my addiction in itself, that was one of the first problems I struggled with was the color of my skin.
Explain.
So I had girls that, I remember one of my first crushes in middle school. I wasn't allowed to date her because I was black.
On her side?
On her side.
Okay.
My mom personally never cared. Now, my St. Louis family made fun of me. Whenever they see my girlfriend, if it was a white girl, they'd be like, and you got to understand Memphis and St. Louis culture, they roast you to no end. And they're like, look at Amanda Bynes. Dog. He want him a little Topanga. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So like, my mom, she never, I think that's part of the reason why she wanted us to get out of that environment, because she wasn't so honed in on race or, class. She wanted us to be around people who accepted us for us. But I do remember, there would be certain girls that I would have crushes on or that I was feeling growing up in middle school, and they would be like, oh, I'm not allowed to date you, you're black. And I would be like, what the fuck does that mean? It definitely threw me off. And I never forget one day, this chick, I had a crush on her from 3rd grade. So we're in 8th grade now, and her mom calls me up one day. Like, she calls my house phone. This is when house phones were it.
The mom calls you.
No, the girlfriend and the mom. She's like, hey, my mom wants to talk to you. Her mom's on the other end, and she goes, Traven, just want to let you know that I'm not going to say anybody's name, but me and my husband, we decided that we're going to let so-and-so date you. And I was just like, and at this point, I'm going into 8th grade, I'm hot shit right now. I'm at my peak. I hit a little growth spurt. I got a few different, we're merging schools from Barfield Elementary to Christiana Elementary. Is now going to become Christiana Middle. So, I'm about to be on my prowl, dude. I'm scoping. Yeah. And then she's like, yeah, you're allowed to date my daughter now. And I was like, I mean, that's what's up. Cool. And then she gets back on the phone. She's like, aren't you so excited to be my boyfriend? And I'm like, what the hell just happened here? You know what I'm saying? Like,
you just got an arranged marriage.
Yeah, legit shotgun wedding here out of nowhere. Which ironically, fast forward, once that girl's grades started to slip and she had to do summer school, I guess, her mom calls me up and was like, she can't date you anymore. And I'm like, and she's like, yeah, she's just not focused on.
Well, that sounds more like a control thing.
No, very much so.
By the family,
very
not
much
necessarily
so.
By.
And I don't think for one bit that her parents were racist.
They were just kind of.
Yeah, I think they just wanted, they had certain expectations for their daughter. Because I'll be honest with you, the girl in particular, she used to throw some of the best parties in middle school. Like, this is back when dancing was a thing. She'd throw some dance parties, and we'd go over there, and her mom accepted all the black kids over there. There was never any judgment. Her dad coached youth league basketball. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think for one bit that their family was racist. But, Middle Tennessee, I mean, hell, Tennessee, depending on where you're at, you're going to get one end of the spectrum or the other. You know what I'm saying? Now, I will say Murfreesboro is probably the most diverse area, Middle Tennessee in general, especially with Nashville. Because when I went to East Tennessee, it was like going in a damn time machine. Yeah. I went to East Tennessee for college, 2008, 2009. And it was right back to like my childhood. Like, I'd have on a polo shirt and some felines, and they'd be like, "Oh man, you're ghetto, dude." And I'm like, "What the hell? This is Ralph Lauren, dude. Like, what are you talking about, ghetto?" Like, no, get out of here. It was very, again, a little bit of culture shock going to East Tennessee, but yeah, man, my addiction itself, I'm not gonna say it stems from childhood, but it was like an identity crisis. I was addicted to becoming whoever I needed to become in order to appease other people. Okay. And so, that gets to high school where the first time I ever tried any drug, any substance was with my family in St. Louis. I'll never forget it. I just made the basketball team. I just made the freshman basketball team at Riverdale. And my mom was pissed because she didn't want me playing. She didn't want me trying out and playing sports because I think, if I'm not mistaken, she couldn't afford to pay for it. And so I snuck and tried out for the basketball team, and I made the team. And so as punishment, she sent me to St. Louis for the summer. And that was the one summer. And she sent me to St. Louis for the summer often throughout my childhood. But that summer in particular, I'll never forget, 12, 13 years old, my cousins pretty much made me smoke weed. I'll never forget it, dude. They were like, everybody in your family gets high. I was like, my mom, I was like, no, they don't. He's like, everybody in your family smokes weed. Even your mama smokes weed. And I was like, my mom does not smoke weed. And they's like, what do you think you smell whenever she's in the bathroom? I'm like, those are incense. And they're like, because she's smoking weed. And I was like, well, damn, maybe they're right, you know? But I'll never forget my cousin. I told him straight up, I was like, nah, man, I'm trying to play basketball. I'm trying to be an athlete. And he was like, all the athletes smoke, man. And I was just like, what? He's like, it's going to make you better at basketball. Like, you know, what's that movie called?
Peer pressure I've ever seen.
Dude, it's like it's like Dewey Cox. Like, it makes sex better. You know, it's the cheapest drug there is. It's non-habit forming. Like, he's saying all the stuff that I'm trying to combat against, and he's just like, no, dude, you want to do this. And I remember, dude, I was sitting there. I was high. I was like, I smoked on a Friday, and I was high until that Sunday at church. Like, I still had that fuzziness. And I was sitting in church, and I started crying. And I was like, because I thought I was going to hell. Like, you know, like I said, my family, my grandma and my aunt's very, very religious. My grandma is a saint, man. Like, but my cousins are just little heathens. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I'm sitting there crying, and my cousin's like, shut the fuck up, man. You're gonna get us caught. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just bawling. My grandma's like, what's wrong? I'm going to hell. You know, I'm in the house of the Lord, and I'm stoned. You know what I'm saying? And I'll never forget, I was traumatized from that, dude. I didn't smoke my entire freshman year of high school. I didn't smoke, drink. I didn't do anything. But I say that my addiction starts from me trying to conform to the people I'm around, because I'll never forget the summer after freshman year, I was riding around with a buddy of mine, Jeremy Arnold. I will say Jeremy Arnold's name. Great guy, man. Solid. You know, his parents, they owned a chain of Sonics in the area. So that summer, we literally would drive from Sonic to Sonic. He had a Jeep Wrangler. We take the top off, and they're fortunate. They had money. So like Jeremy had no problem getting girls. And I'll never forget this one group of girls that he would be around. One of the girls in the group that I liked, you know, they all were stoners. Jeremy didn't smoke, but Jeremy has Sonic and the money. You know, so the girls, they liked being around Jeremy. He had a car, he had Sonic and stuff like that. And I didn't smoke. I didn't do any of that. I was just always with Jeremy. So I remember as I started crushing on this girl, she was like, you're not my type. And I was like, why not? She was like, because you don't smoke. So I was like, you know, I played it off. I'm like, what do you mean I don't smoke? I was like, I smoke. And she's like, I've never seen you smoke. And, you know, I'm still slightly traumatized from a year prior, spending that summer in St. Louis. By the way, just to go back, that summer is when everything kind of clicked as far as how to take my code switching or my different demographics of life and implement them into one. So like, I'll never forget that summer, I would be in the hood playing against, you know, the guys in the hood. I'd be playing them one-on-one in basketball for money, busting their ass. But that's all from the skill training that I had in Tennessee. Meanwhile, after that summer, you know, I learned how to get a sack of bud and sell it to get money back so I can go buy clothes. So it's like where I was living two separate lives, I was able to start kind of conforming and making it into, I guess, this, I don't want to say a character that I played, because like I said, literally up until last year, I've never genuinely been myself, I don't think. I didn't know how. But I just kind of created this person who is, I'm a chameleon. And in the moment of me hanging out with these girls and they're like, you know, you don't smoke. And I'm like, I smoke. And I'm like, I sell weed. And they're like, oh, really? You know, so now I've kind of got to back it up. So, you know, I call a few friends, call a few family members, you know, I get some bud, that Mexican brick weed, you know, seeds everywhere. And I start smoking just to hang out with these girls. Which as that happens, I got another group of friends that we kind of converge, and I'm still friends with a lot of these guys today, but it's like we all had something. We all had sports, weed, and our community was what we had in common. And we just clicked and we became boys. And every last one of us sold weed. I only sold weed because I was friends with the plug. I was a stoner all of high school, with the exception of freshman year. Sophomore year, I was selling bags of mid. I had it in my locker, had it in my backpack. Me and my friends, anytime we would run into each other in the hallways, we would skip. I remember like going into my senior year, a group of my friends got caught skipping school. They got caught with their weed. They got caught with all that. And the only reason I wasn't with them that day is because my 5th period teacher saw me. And she was like, if you're not in my class today, I'm telling your track coach, which is like probably the only person I was scared of because he would make me run till I threw up. But she's like, I'll tell your track coach if you're not in my class today. And right before that class, we have the convergence in the hallway where we all come together and we're deciding whose car or whose house we're about to go to smoke. And I was like, man, I can't go. I got to go to Miss Wine's class today. And they're like, what? And I'm like, nah, dude, I can't. And we'd already left school. This was 5th period. We'd already left school 5 times that day just to go smoke. You know what I mean? I kid you not, I'm not making this up. Before first period, smoke. After first period, smoke. Second period, smoke. It was clockwork. And I'll never forget leaving class that day, and my buddy runs up. He's like, dude, they just caught your boys with a purple Crown Royal bag. And I knew what that meant. The Crown Royal bag is where we kept all the goods at. And I'm like, no way. And it was in the news and on the paper, high school students get caught with 2 pounds worth of weed. It was not 2 pounds. It was like 2 ounces, maybe. But yeah, man, that was the first real interaction I had with, like, I guess you could say a drug lifestyle, because I've sold weed since I was 13, 14 years old and hung out with the guys who had the weed since I was 13, 14 years old. Yeah. So, I take that with me. I graduate high school. I'm able to get a scholarship up to East Tennessee State University, which, again, when I went there, I was kind of sold a dream by the coach out there. He told me Johnson City, the city where ETSU is, Johnson City is like Murfreesboro and Knoxville is like Nashville, which was completely off. Johnson City was like Murfreesboro 10, 15 years in the past. Because like I said, I go there and there's literally like little to nothing to do.
Yeah, there's like a movie theater and a
Yeah, there was nothing, dude. Yeah. Like few restaurants. But because I do have this chameleon, appeal, this chameleon character that I've developed, I was able to fit in fairly easily. And that is when I started to take a lot of the street ignorance, or I guess you could say street knowledge that I learned from being in St. Louis, and apply it to this very rural area. Because, a lot of these guys, they haven't been to a place as big as St. Louis. They don't know the fast talking. They don't know the swindling. So I started to, this is so messed up. I started to, I would go out and find different guys to buy weed off of, different plugs, and I would rob them. But like, I never physically hurt anybody. I prided myself off of, because my mom growing up, my mom being in the legal system, I knew it's nothing to put a warrant out for somebody's arrest. All you gotta do is fill out the paperwork, say they did this, and now I've got to prove that I didn't do it in court. So I would never physically hurt anybody. I would just literally, I'd re-up with a guy a few times, and then like that 4th or 5th time I re-up, I asked for a little bit more, and I would just take off running. I knew they couldn't catch me. I'm a track star here. And I would always plan it methodically to where they would have to meet me, and we'd park somewhere where there's a non-drivable area, like a field or some woods. And I would always have like a buddy or somebody or a car sitting on the other side of that. So pretty much once I hop out, it's just a blatant foot chase across this open area or this field, which I knew no one had a chance. And even if they did somehow hang close, by the time we get across that, I get to the car, you've got to now run all the way back
To your car.
to your car just to start to maneuver to get to me. So
Someone was talking about yesterday. They were like talking about someone like needing to re-up and then call them back or whatever. And I was like, I would never.
yeah, I mean,
ever
I look
tell
back.
I would never ever tell somebody I'm out and I'm about to re-up because, and I was telling them like, my involvement in this was non-existent.
Yeah.
I want to say that.
Yeah,
But most of my friends' part-time job was robbing drug dealers.
Yeah.
So, and they would do it this way, like that. Like, hey, you know, I'm out. I need to re-up. Oh, when are you going to get it? And then like people are dumb.
people are
they'll
they're
be like,
so
yeah, I
naive,
just
man.
re-up.
They're so naive,
Well,
dude.
I've been following you for 5 hours. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. But they would do it like this way. And one, this is probably the most conned way, but they would like employ a woman to go in the hood
I had one of those.
and they would befriend this dude. And drug dealers are flashy.
Yes.
So she would just hang around him like
Yep. I had a
10
chick
days,
just like that.
2 weeks.
Yep.
As soon as he read up, he's sitting at a stop sign. She gets robbed, he gets robbed. They would also do everybody's at the park, all these D boys are there. Everybody gets laid on the ground.
Yeah.
Everybody gets robbed. But only certain people get their shit back.
Yeah. Yeah. I never personally. I've been a fighter my whole life. You know, being from St. Louis. My stepbrothers, they were ratchet. When it came to the physical aspect of robbing people, I never liked it because I knew there's retaliation in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like the anonymity of, especially with me being in a different area where no one really knew who Traven was.
Well, it does expose you because you've been messing with this person. And then the third, fourth time, you take off running. Like, in these other situations, nobody knew who.
Well, in those instances, they didn't know. They didn't. I would give them a fake name, like I would give them a fake name. They thought I lived. I would have them meet me at certain dorms or certain locations where they thought I lived. Like I said, growing up here in Murfreesboro, I slowly knew everyone. I'm out here where I don't know anybody. You know, I got maybe a handful of people I know who also graduated from Murfreesboro and are going to college out here. So that's where I was able to really dive into my chameleon bag. You know what I'm saying? I'd put on the whitest, most proper cornball act I could just to gain these people's trust. And then when it came down to needing to put in the work, it's nothing for me to do a snatch and run, talk bad to you, cut you out, and keep it moving. Because you'll never see me again. And if you do see me again, what are you going to do? You going to fight me? I love to fight. So let's run it. I'm probably going to get more of your stuff if we fight. So, and the same way I had a chick, she would go hang out with guys. She would let me know who had what. And I was very, very methodical about how I would do it. I would run the plan by in my head multiple times. Because again, my biggest fear wasn't necessarily the retaliation. It was them going to the police, because I'm robbing like rich frat boys. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing for them to call mom and dad and, you know, say I stole their phone. Now I gotta, whether it's about the drugs or not, you know, I didn't want any charges. I didn't want any cases pending on me. So I was very methodical. I remember one time I got this dude robbed. You know, I pretty much had him meeting me somewhere, had some other guys meeting him there to intercept him on his way to me. And I wasn't even in town. And I specifically would tell them, like, don't hit him, just take it and run. Don't do this, just take it and run. Oftentimes the guys that I had with me, they wouldn't listen. They'd start wailing on a dude or something like that. And I always felt bad about that because I never wanted to feel like a bully, even though I'm robbing people, you know?
Yeah.
But that was, man, I can't count how many times I would do these nefarious things. I would like go with people. I'd like go over somebody's house and like leave a window or back door or something unlocked. And then we'd all go out together to the club, and I'd dip in the middle of the club, go over there, clear out the house, take it back to my spot, go back to the club, and then we'd all ride together back to their house for them to realize that they've been robbed. And I would always have some skin in the game. Like I'd have my laptop over there or, something to where I could be like, oh, dude, what the fuck, But, and what's funny is I was simply just doing this just for, I didn't need the money.
I was about to ask, like, why? Like, I've moved a lot in my life.
Yeah.
And every time you move, you have an opportunity to recreate.
Correct.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Yeah, very much
like,
so.
Why did you choose this recreate?
So I think it was kind of everything kind of converging in on itself as far as like childhood, going to a new area, kind of having that PTSD about, oh, you're too ghetto, and then being around the black people and they'd be like, you're white as hell. It literally started happening all over again when I went to college.
Okay.
And so for me, it was like,
so you kind of picked a side.
I picked a side and I went to the full extreme. I was like, you know what? I'm going to show them that I am who I want to be, and I can outdo. Oh, you think you can sell? Okay, well, I'll rob your plug. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you think you got money? All right, well, I'll take your money just to spend it, just to do it. And which is crazy because, like I said, I didn't want to physically hurt anybody, but I wanted I had the like a mob mentality. Like whatever you got, I want it and I'll take it. I ran with a bunch of guys out there who was also a mixed breed of guys, a bunch of chameleons in their own aspect. We did parties. We would throw like the college parties, and these weren't like just your typical like, dancing beer pong parties. We would bring artists out. We brought Yo Gotti out. We brought K Camp, Kurt Cobain's. We would bring out porn stars. I don't even know if I can say that, but yeah, we bring out porn stars. We bring out all different types of artists to this area because we had guys who had money and connections that way. And so that was just another way for us to make money, another way for us to gain popularity, another way for us to kind of just ride the wave. I've been fortunate enough to always be tied into or have direct relationships with people who are like the plug, whether it be in drugs, whether it be like my mom working in the courthouse. I was plugged in. Anytime I got in trouble, I was scapegoated out because of my mom. Yeah. Going to college, I ran with the guys who ran with the guys. So I've always had that luxury.
Yeah, me too. I've always fit in that category, which is why my profession became like middleman in drugs.
Yeah, very easily.
Because I was always very accessible to this community and to whoever to the plug community.
And I embraced it, man. Like I never really wanted to get to the top.
What saved me is that, in the sense of like, because if I'm in a middleman drugs at a high level, which is how I made my living.
Yeah.
My name is worth a lot.
Yeah.
So it kept me out of, like, I was very trustworthy. Because, like, if we get robbed because I fucking told my friend where we were at and then we all get laid on the ground, and, like, that's going to get all over the street.
Oh, yeah, it's over with.
It's over with.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to operate.
You're not, yeah.
So, like, it saved me,
Yeah.
I was also very, like, I operated in a safe way. Like, I would never, because I understood from a young age that my friends were robbing drug dealers.
Yeah.
So I knew, like, I would never communicate in ways that would like
put it out there.
Position.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, nobody knew where I was. Nobody knew what I was doing when that was happening. Like,
see, I was somewhat similar.
I still operate that way.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
No, it's weird, but, like, I mean, there is a safety component to my life at the current moment, but, like, nobody knows my address. There's, out of the 7 or 8 years that I've been operating Threshold, like, I think 7 people have been to my home.
I mean, it's better that way.
And those people, it's not, do I trust you to not fuck up my home? It's, do I trust you to not ever even let it slip from your mouth?
Yeah, don't. Yeah, and
because like easy is like, oh, Matt lives over in, you know,
yeah,
that's harmless, right?
yeah. But then
Some
the
crazy dude sitting on
yep.
the front porch, and now he got asked to leave, and he's breathing over me at
Yeah.
12 p.m. at night. You know,
that's something that I guess with me being constantly on the move, because after high school, you know, I lived here, lived there, I bounced around so much. I didn't really care as much to be hidden. I didn't really care about my safety, so to speak.
well, you were saying like in college, y'all had like you had people over at your house.
Yeah, like I mean, at all times.
I never operated that way.
Oh, dude, at all times, dude. Like we
always operated in a different location.
No, man. I at my house, like when people say like they go to the trap, my house has been the trap
Well,
many
I would
a
trap
times.
other places out.
No,
friends.
I'm trapping right here in my crib. Dude. Like I was trapping right there out the crib. And all of college, man, all of college, all my 20s, I only messed with weed. I only sold weed. I never sold anything else. I didn't even really drink like that, which is crazy because I definitely suffered from alcoholism, but I didn't know anything about that until like mid-20s. Come my mid-20s, you know, once that college phase starts to kind of like fizzle out, you know.
Yeah, did you get a job?
What do you mean?
Well, did you try to use your degree after college?
Oh, so for one, I never graduated.
Okay.
But with me being such a well-spoken people person, I was able to. I've always had a job. You know, I've always had at least, even though I was always selling weed, I always had. I was always told, you know, you want your good to equal your bad. So if I ever got caught up, smoked, or lost any of my drugs, I needed to have some sort of steady income. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I worked at call centers. I taught ballroom dancing for like 5 years. Yeah, dude, I've always had a job.
You know how to salsa?
Yeah, I know salsa, cha-cha, mambo, bolero, waltz.
Sign me up, dude.
Yeah, I got you, dog. It's not cheap.
I'm trying to learn how to.
Hey,
yeah.
I know a studio here in Murfreesboro. If you ever want to learn, I got you.
Is it over on like Bradyville? Is that place?
Memorial.
National
Dance Clubs.
Is it Julie? Is that girl's name?
Hell, I don't know.
I've been looking into it. I've been trying to get this girl.
I'll connect you. But I actually taught, it's funny, during like my stint of like college party days, kind of got caught up in some stuff, had to get out of Johnson City, came back to Murfreesboro, was looking for a job. Craigslist had a job opportunity to be a ballroom dance instructor. Little to no experience needed. And I've always been in like hip hop dancing, stuff like that. So I was like, screw it, you know, why not? And I went in, I got the job, you know, we're talking suit and tie every day, 2-hour coachings, meetings. That's where I really learned how to sell and close people on selling. That's also where I learned the rumba, the waltz, you know, the foxtrot. It's
like you were learning this while you were teaching.
While teaching it. Yeah, literally, dude, there would be some days where like I have a lesson plan coming up with the student and I had no idea what I was doing. And like the hour prior to our hour lesson, I was getting like the rundown on what to do. And then I'd go out and, you know, I'd try to produce, try to sell. You know, I was learning dance moves the day before having to teach the dance moves. Very on the fly, but probably one of the most like rigorous, in-depth jobs I've had. And I was only 20, 21 at the time. So it was, I look back on that job, I learned a lot. It taught me a lot when it comes to how to sell, like, cause it was sales. If you get somebody to buy $5,000, $10,000 worth of lessons from you, you know, they walk out of that building with nothing but air. They don't get to walk out with like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like
they do walk out with something that they will have forever.
Yeah, but that day that they write you that check, you know what I mean? They don't get to leave with a brand new dress. You know, they're not walking out. You know, they might have some dance shoes or something that comes with it, but like they just signed you a check for $5,000 in hopes that you're gonna deliver over the next 60 days. That they're gonna look like Fred and Ginger. You know what I mean? And you know what I'm saying? Like, and now it's up to you to deliver that. So like I was selling air, and I wasn't very good at it at all, which is ironic because I had been selling weed my whole life. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
so like
they want the weed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a little different.
Yeah.
But
there's not much sales in selling weed.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, ballroom dancing is just as premeditated as selling weed. Like you don't accidentally go into a ballroom studio.
Yeah.
So
Well, one's an addiction.
yeah, very much. Yeah, if I say one is a hobby, the other's an addiction. So, you know, but in the midst of me doing all that, you know, ballroom dancing, I was like, you know, screw. I'm watching my friends literally. I'll never forget. Like one Friday night, you know, because we had every Friday night while I was teaching ballroom dancing, we had like a Friday night. It was like a club kind of where we'd have an open bar. All the students could come that Friday. All the teachers had to be there. It was mandatory, and it gave the students an opportunity to be able to practice their dancing. You know what I mean? Because like where other than like a cruise, you know, where do you go ballroom dance at? It's not really a thing here. And at the time, Dancing with the Stars was huge. So there were various places that we could take them around Nashville, which they don't really have anymore. Unless you're doing line dancing, there's not really anywhere to go do any ballroom dancing. So we would operate to where we had our own studio where we would host dance parties. And I'll never forget, like one dance party I'm at, my boys are in Johnson City, and they just brought Yo Gotti to the city. You know, for like they paid like $40,000 to get Yo Gotti to come, and I'm sitting here in a suit dancing with this 70-year-old woman doing the waltz, and I was just like, and I'm 22. I was like, what the hell am I doing, man? You know, and I started to digress. I started to lose focus when it comes to that. Shortly after that, they let me go, and I immediately hightailed it back to Johnson City, and I thugged it out, man. I had call center jobs, I bartended and served, and that became my bread and butter for about 10 or 15 years. Was bartending and serving, from 25 all the way up to 35. I bartended and served, and after Johnson City, you know, I was living with these girls, and they were from Knoxville, and they were like, "Hey, we're gonna move back to Knoxville. You should come with us. It's closer to Murfreesboro. You know, mind you, I've got a son. I probably should have mentioned that earlier in the interview. You know, I've got a 16-year-old son. At the time, he was only like five or six, and they were like, you know, you should come with us back to Knoxville because it's closer to Murfreesboro, and you can be closer to your son." And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And this is where my drinking started, because once I get to Knoxville, it's like culture shock all over again. You know, I'm everywhere I've lived at, I kind of slowly but surely get to know everyone. And here, you know, I'm mid-20s. I'm not really as deep in the party scene anymore, more in like the bar scene. Mm-hmm. I don't really have as many, like all my boys, you know, that I created this bond with in college, we've all slowly started to go our separate ways. So I don't really have that close-knit community. I don't have that community of like the plugs, like I'm so used to having, where I'm just always plugged in. So I start to sit at the house and drink a lot. You know, I never forget, I bought a case of Blue Moon just to have something to drink at the house. And I would sit there and play Fortnite.
No judgment.
Yeah,
I like Blue Moon.
I love Blue Moon, dude. You throw orange in it, it's legit.
Yeah.
Plus, I never liked the taste of alcohol. That was one of my biggest deterrents from drinking. Like, you know, it tastes like shit, dude. Why am I gonna sit here and
Blue Moon tastes pretty good.
Blue Moon was acceptable to me for sure.
Yeah, I don't like the taste of alcohol either. That's why I would either drink something really like good, like Blue Moon.
Yeah.
Or I would drink like to get drunk.
Yeah.
Like I would drink brown whiskey pretty much.
And I found my whiskey a little thereafter, but I would sit there at the house and drink Blue Moon and play video games before and after work. And man, if I was miserable, man. I was so used to being in the spotlight at all times that, like, I guess you could say like a form of depression started to come over me. And that's right when life started to really hit, because I had a friend who died. He passed away. He died in like a freak accident, man. Like, he himself was drunk, fell asleep and froze to death. You know what I mean? Like, it was like 4 degrees that night. I had some other friends that were with him. You know, they led him to what they believed was safety, you know, and as he laid there and went to sleep, you know, I guess they didn't shut the door all the way, and I don't know all the details, but he pretty much froze to death, you know, and, you know, alcohol already thins your blood out. So it was just really,
there's a protocol. If you're that cold, you can't just shift either. So,
well, and this guy would drink till he'd like,
blackout.
not just blackout, like pass out. Like, there's no getting him up. Like, he's already a big dude, you know what I'm saying? R.I.P. to Coffee. Love you, miss you, bro. But he was like the first stint I ever experienced with like a professional drinker. Like, dude, wake up, start drinking. You know what I mean? Great guy. He always had he always had a head on his shoulders, but he was a drinker. He could drink. And I remember for his funeral, that's what we did. We were like, you know, Coffee would want us to get fucked up right now. So we drank and we drank and we drank and we drank. And that's when I started to drink. That's when I really started to divulge into brown liquor. Prior to the brown liquor, I had my Blue Moons, and my female roommates, they drank gin. Like, I had this chick, she drank the hell out of Seagram's gin, dog. She could outdrink grown-ass men because she was drinking Seagram's gin. And so, like, I drank gin a little bit here and there. I drank Blue Moons. But from when my buddy passed away, I started drinking whiskey a lot. And you already know Hennessy's like a staple in the black community. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you got your hen, you got your Crown. I didn't have the budget for Hennessy, but I found Crown Apple. And
it's kind of expensive too.
I mean, it's like $25 for like the decent, like that same size $25 bottle is like a $40 Hennessy bottle. You know what I'm saying? So, like, for the price of what I was getting, and again, I didn't like the taste of any alcohol, but if I mix Crown Apple with like some Sprite, oh man, dude, you like, what do you mean? This tastes like cream soda. You know what I'm saying? And it took off, man. I'll never forget. I was like 27, still living with the girls, and I'm drinking Crown Apple like every day.
Did they start to intervene? The girls, were they like,
man, they tried, man.
Hey, this is getting wild.
Oh yeah, they definitely did. I was having my spasms, you know, cussing everybody out in the house. I ultimately really broke that group up. Sad to say, I definitely caused everyone to kind of go their separate ways, because we had it made, man. It was me and 3 girls. We were living in a 4-bedroom house, paying like $1,200 a month, and $1,200 total in all bills between 4 people, and we all worked as servers, bartenders. Mm-hmm. So we had it made, and I was just so in misery, so depressed that it's like I started to make everyone else miserable and depressed. You know, misery loves company, and so one of the girls we actually later started dating, but yeah, no, man, it just started to steamroll. It was bad. And from there, you know, I started dating this other girl, and she was a good girl. She had a job. She was like a principal over a religious school. And we had been messing around off and on for a few years. And when she heard that I was going through like a transition, as far as, you know, me and all the girls were moving, and I was waiting on apartments to open up. I was looking at different places. And, you know, one of my, I don't want to say friends with benefits, but that's kind of what we were at the time. She was like, you can come stay with me, you know? And I'm like, bet, you know? And I'm staying with her, and we're still messing around. And then we slowly and surely start to, you know, make it a legit relationship. We started to take it serious, but I'm even more miserable because now I don't have anything. I'm living in a dry county. You know, I'm living on the outskirts of Knoxville in Lenore City. I'm just not where I want to be at in life, you know.
Well, you just added a relationship to your life too.
So well, yeah, that too, you know,
where you got to be
present. And I was still very immature at the time. I'm still immature now at 36, but at that time, you know, I wanted to have my cake and eat it too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still wanting to party with the boys, you know, while the boys we're all growing older and growing our separate ways, but I'm still stuck in like that like, you know what I mean? I still want it.
Like, were they moving on? They had
girlfriends. Oh yeah,
they were living in a house.
Oh yeah, they all were slowly bossing up in their own ways, and we would come together every now and again. Every so often they would still throw a party or bring an artist out or something like that. But for me, like, I was working towards those moments. Like I didn't care about the family aspect. I didn't care about, you know, paying bills. I didn't care about any responsibilities that I was supposed to. That was really when I started, like, that was the start of my down spiral, was going into my 30s and still acting like a 19-year-old. The drinking got worse and it got worse and it got worse. And my ex at the time, she would tell me, you know, you got to stop drinking. You got to stop drinking. She would be sincere about it. I thought she was just being bitter, you know, I thought she was just, you know, just being against everything I did, because we would have those fights. And I look back on it now, she was completely right about everything. But she was like, you know, you got to go to church. You got to stop drinking. And I'm like, fuck that, dude. You know, I come from a family who did both. You know, they were deep in the church, deep into drugs. You know, I wasn't dabbling in drugs really like that. I was just drinking and smoking weed. You know, I'd go to some parties and there would be the Coke, there'd be the X, the Molly and stuff like that. And every now and again I might take some, but it never was my thing. I remember back in high school, the group of guys I ran with, and then, you know, when them triple stacks and them Blue Dolphins first came out. Yeah. Yeah, dude, that was some days, dude. And like, I remember they would like, man, here, Traven. And like, I would take them and put them in my pocket, because that wasn't really my thing to do, you know? And then like a few days later, when they're looking for some, I'll be like, I know a guy's got 5 of them right now. You know what I'm saying? So even up until, you know, my late 20s, when I would go to places that had, you know, a little bit more hardcore drugs other than weed and alcohol, I might do some just to be the chameleon I am, just to fit into this demographic. But for the most part, I didn't ride around with it. I didn't take it to the house until I did. You know, that last year, me and my ex being together, every now and again, I would take some to the house, and she never really partaked in it. She frowned upon it, but it was never like an end all be all. She just really wanted me to get help. And I was against it. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Screw that. And then we finally had like our final falling out, to where I was like, you know what? I'm staying in the guest bedroom. You know, I'll stay and help out with things up until this point. This is in January. I'll never forget, it was Martin Luther King Day. And I was like, I'm done. You know, we were fighting over pointless things at that time. I was miserable. I was like, I'm moving out. I'll stay and help out wherever I'm needed until April, because my birthday's in April. I was like, I'll stay and help out wherever I'm needed until April, but come May, I'm gone. And then February, I'll never forget it. February 2020, Kobe Bryant dies. and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, go on a drinking binge. And I'm a LeBron fan, but like the way Kobe died, the way he went out, man. And you know, around this same time, I had another buddy. He died from a freak accident, man, a boating accident. He dove off the boat, and the water was too shallow. Like, cracked his neck and messed up all this back here. And you know, he was on ventilators and life support and all that stuff. And finally it got to the point to where they couldn't do it anymore. And so I'll never forget, going through that during this time. And then Kobe Bryant dies. And so like I'm just like purely in like woe is me, grief, trying to go through this breakup, drinking. I'm staying in the guest bedroom. She's still in the main bedroom. I'm getting up, going to work, doing whatever I need to, but I'm planning my exit, and then boom, COVID, whole world stops, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I'm stuck in this house with her. I'm drinking even more now. Still don't notice that I have a drinking problem, and when I say drinking even more, I'm just, if I buy a bottle, I drink a bottle.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So once I drank that bottle, I wouldn't buy another one till the next day. But from COVID, I moved from the outskirts of Knoxville back to Murfreesboro, and I get my own apartment. And for the first time, I'm not really depressed. Like I've got like this new little spunk in me. Like I'm starting to dig in on my comedy hard. I'm doing open mics. I'm hosting my own comedy shows. I'm doing skits online.
You're kind of finding a new.
I'm really like finding my niche. I'm still selling weed, and I'm still drinking, but it's like it's not so much so as a necessity as it is an accessory. I really started to get into my groove in the thick of COVID and quarantine. That was also when I met one of my neighbors who was, he sold coke. He was a cocaine plug. And it worked out well because, I would have people over. I told you, my house has always been the trap. So I would have people come over, during quarantine and COVID, you couldn't go nowhere. You couldn't do shit. So I'd have people over at the house Friday, Saturday nights, music playing. I'd have food. I'd have a big old bag of weed sitting out. I'd go buy 2 or 3 bottles for everybody to pour up. We might walk around to one of the little hole in the wall bars that's open, come back to my house, stay up late. And they would be like, man, where's the coke at? Who's got some coke? And I'd be like, right here next door. And he would trade me like a half a gram or a gram for some weed, which was a killer deal because I was paying like 14 cents a gram. I was getting weed super cheap at the time. And so for a few grams, he'd give me some coke and then I could sell it to these guys for $50 to $100, depending on what it is. So I was loving it. I'm like, this is legit, and even still, I never really overly indulged in it. I would every weekend or so, every day or, here and there is where it would come in. But outside of the partying, I was creating more than I ever had in my life, man. I had a skit coming out, every week, at least every few days. I'm doing a comedy show, or I'm hosting my own comedy show every at least once every other week. I was hosting my own show like once a month. I was starting to create a wave, man. And November, shortly after the world started to open back up, and we went from 25% capacity to 50% capacity that restaurants and places were allowed to, it finally gets back to normal. And November 7th, 2020, my brother dies from cancer. And he was my closest everything, my closest family member, my closest friend, closest role model, closest supporter. He was my guy, and he died from cancer. And I knew he had been battling cancer. He had just beat brain cancer. He had 4 brain surgeries. I knew he was battling it, but I never understood the severity of it. Plus, this is like my big brother, who I've never seen him lose a physical fight. Like I've seen this guy go at least 50-0 in the streets. Like, I'm not exaggerating, dude. I swear. On his tombstone, it says fight like Kudu, because he was like, and that's actually a double entendre, like, because how he fought cancer and how he would beat your ass. Like, He was, when I
50
say
and
a
0.
fighter, my boy was throwing hands any and everywhere we went. It was like, it was understood, like, don't mess with him. So, like, I never expected him to lose his fight with cancer. And I'll never forget the day he died, November 7th, 2020, because that was also the same day that that Biden got elected.
November 7th.
Yep.
Yeah.
November 7th, 2020. That was the day that we found out, because if you remember, they had the mail-in votes and they had to count it, and you know, it kept going from Trump to Biden to Biden to Trump. And then I remember calling my brother because I wanted to just talk to him about it, and he didn't answer. I called him again, he didn't answer. And I was working at Bonefish Grill at the time, and I was serving at Bonefish Grill, and I'll never forget, like, my phone, I'm used to my phone going off from people needing weed, and you know, I might have a little bit on me in the car. I tell them to pull up. I serve them out in the parking lot and stuff like that. But this day in particular, my phone did not stop vibrating for like 10 or 15 minutes straight. And then when I looked at my phone finally, all the missed calls were from they weren't from my bites. They weren't from people who bought from me. They were from like my circle of family and friends that I had just kind of, you know, been with and built over the last decade or so. And it's like I instantly I already knew before I called anyone back, but you know, you kind of got to hear it for it to really set in. Yeah, sure enough, I called one of my buddies back, and he was like, "Man, if you need anything, bro, just let me know." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Bro, call your family." I'm like, "No, what are you talking about? Just tell me." He's like, I can't do this, bro." And he instantly starts crying. And I'm knowing it. I'm like, "What's up, bro? Like, tell me, bro." Like, I'm starting to get mad. And he's like, "Bro, he's gone, bro. You know, he passed away. He left." And I broke, man. I broke. I didn't know what to do or where to go. I actually kind of regret this, but the first place I went was to my son. I went and I just held my son and I cried.
Why do you regret it?
That's a big burden to put on a child.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you know.
Listen, when I'm in a emotional tight spot, like, it's not all my kids, but that's where I want to be.
Yeah, that's it.
Sometimes there's been times in my life I'm like, listen, I need a hug.
Yeah. And now he's a teenager. I'm like, dude, damn, dude, just hug me, dog. Oh my God. But you know, at the time, he's like 10 years old and he loved his uncle, man.
I mean, you were going to tell him either way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I didn't know who else to be around. That wasn't going to just feed me
It's more messed up you
Yeah.
at your friend into telling you, because I mean, it wasn't his responsibility.
It wasn't.
It was your family.
It was, and
because that is a heavy load.
But again, though, he was my closest family.
Okay.
So like, if there would have been anyone that feel like anytime I came into town for Christmas and Thanksgiving, he was the one to be like, "Oh, we're at Granny's house. Oh, we're at Daddy's house," you know, stuff like that. So,
okay.
Yeah. So like, and like literally, Facebook already knew. It was already on Facebook, going viral on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? And that right there was, if I was already kind of, you know, if being in Knoxville was already me kind of teetering on the downslope, coming back to Murfreesboro and starting over fresh was me kind of trying to swing out of it. And then when my brother died, it's like somebody cut the rope and the fall off was quick. I'm talking about, it went from me drinking every day to me drinking all day. I would sit and just drink and cry, drink and cry, drink and cry. There was no end to it. I would drink myself to sleep every night. I'd wake up and immediately just start drinking.
You think that you processed it while in sobriety?
I definitely did.
Okay. Because I've went through something like this where when my mom died, I found her dead and I was on meth real bad. And I spent the next 2 years, I mean, literally shooting dope in my arms, stifling the fucking noise, dude.
Yeah, man.
I could not compute, you know? It took 10 years, probably 9 or 10 years in recovery for me to fully grieve.
You know, I'm not good when it comes to any sort of rejection, man, because I always blame myself somehow. And in those moments of loss, like especially with my brother, I never fully explained to him how big of a role he played in my life. Like this guy raised me for the most part. Like everyone thought we were twins growing up. He was my stepbrother on top of that. Like, but we were so close. I never would say stepbrother. That's my brother right there.
Yeah.
He taught me how to fight. He taught me how to, play basketball. He taught me how to get girls, how to talk to girls. He taught me all the good and all the bad I knew. Like he was I literally would go into certain situations, and with me having that chameleon mind state, I would be like, how would my brother act in this moment? And I never told him, before he died, man, I never got to really fully express how important he was to me, how much I loved him, how much he meant to me. And so I blamed God. I blamed myself. And I spiraled, dude. I was just drinking and sobbing. I don't even want to say crying. I'm talking about sobbing, bro. I would have like just snot and tears on the floor, but not beneath me. And this was going on every single night for at least 6 or 7 months straight. During the day, I'd get up, I'd go to work, and I would drink. I'd take a bottle with me. I have a bottle in the car. I was bartending at the time, so I would just drink at the bar while I'm working. And then after a few months of that, I was like, screw this job, dude. I was like, I got enough money from, at the time I was playing online poker. When I was doing it right, like, cashing out my winnings, accepting my losses, but I was always in the plus. I was selling weed, doing online poker, and I had my rent paid up for like 6 months in advance. So I was like, screw this fucking job. I'm done working. I'm just going to focus on comedy. And little did I know that was another part of that deep drop, because drinking, not focusing on my responsibilities as an adult. And then one day my neighbor came over and he was like, he saw me. I was just sitting on the floor. I had my front door open, but I had my storm door locked. And he sees me. I'm just sitting on the floor crying, broad daylight, drinking. And he's like, what are you doing, man? And I'm like, man, I'm good, bro. And he's like, no, fuck that, dude. And he's like, you need to come with me. And I'm like, for what? And he's like, I got a bunch of girls who are about to go bowling. And I'm like, I'm good on that. He's like, this is like I said, I've dabbled in Coke and Molly and X before, but this was the first day that I truly started to develop a connection with it. And
it's because like the same things happen to me. I think it happens in everybody's. It's the day it became a solution.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, dude.
Like it's when I'm down, it's when I'm out, and then this thing pulls me out.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that day because he was like, look, man, change your clothes, go in the bathroom, hit this, you'll be all right.
And you were.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked, dude. I changed my clothes, I hit it, and I looked in the mirror. And he had and at one point he brought the girls over to my house, and they're sitting in my living room, and they're like, "Oh, this is nice," So I start to, I'm gassing myself up, and I'm like, "All right, yeah, here we go," get snap out of it type deal. And that's kind of what it was for me. It became like a snap out of it. Like anytime I got ready to feel something emotionally, or I was struggling with something mentally, I would just snap out of it. I'd go drink, and I'd hit a line, and it became to where I had to do that just to leave the house. Then it got to where, all right, well, I'll do it 2 or 3 times. Then I'll leave the house. Then it got to where, well, I'm going to bring a little bit with me in case I need a pick me up while I'm out of the house. Then it was like, well, I'm going to keep a half a gram on me at all times in case I'm in a situation where I can't get back to the house. And then before you know it, I looked up and I was behind 2 months in rent.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, dude, I was paid up for like a half a year. They're like, yes, sir. It's December, dude. Like you haven't paid rent. Your rent ran out in October. And they were serving me an eviction notice. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I had 2 cars at the time. So I sold one of my cars. Cause during this time, my gambling, which was usually positive. Oh man, I lost in one night. I lost about $2,000 worth of weed, money, and online currency for the most part.
Yeah.
I lost, I want to say it was like almost $2,500 in one night. And I was hit after that, bro. Like, literally rent came up. They're like, yeah, you're 2 months behind. We're going to have to evict you. So I had to sell a car just to, pay off, just to avoid the eviction. Then I wrecked my other car. Then I had to chop it up, pretty much just sold that for junk. Still got evicted. And at this time, I'm just going from chick to chick. I got a little roster of different women that I mess with. And I'm upfront with them. I wasn't lying to them. I'd already got caught in the past for lying to women. Yeah. So I'm telling them straight up. I'm like, look, I ain't shit. I'm going through it right now. I got this other chick that I mess with. I don't have my own crib. So if you reach out to me, I don't answer, it's because I'm at this other chick's house. And meanwhile, none of them really knew about my drug addiction, I don't think. They knew about the drinking, but I was sneaking and doing coke every day. Then I moved in with this girl. I had to eventually get another job, got a job at Carrabba's. Moved in with this girl that I met at the bar one day who was like, I'm looking for roommates. We went back to her apartment. I saw it. It was nice. We stayed up doing coke and drinking, me, her, and a few other people. And she was like, yeah, if you want to help, if you want to move in, it's just $600 a month. You have your own bed, your own bedroom, own bathroom. And I kind of saw that as like my end to getting out of the slump that I was in. That completely backfired. She robbed me, bro. I was paying her cash money rent. She wasn't paying any of the rent. So sure enough, fast forward, she's getting evicted owing like $7,000 and back rent. And I've given her like $4,000 at the time. And there's no way for me to take her to court. There's no way for me to do anything about it. So back on my ass. And at this time I'd been working at Carrabba's over the last like year or so, staying from girl to girl to girl to girl to moving in with the girl. During this whole time, I'm working at Carrabba's, serving just to have enough money to maintain some sort of stability. But I had no stability. I had no car.
Yeah.
I had no crib. My relationship with my son started to deteriorate because he can't come spend quality time with me as much because I don't have anywhere for us to be. I would go out with him and we still would do things together, but it wasn't the same. And, while living with this girl, I come to find out she's robbed me and completely just put me right back at square one. I took an even deeper plunge into drugs and alcohol. It became where I would normally spend all night doing drugs, sleep for most of the day until I had to get up. Now I'm doing enough coke to where I'm up for like 2-3 days at a time, no sleep. I'm going from the morning straight to the plugs to get some more, straight to the liquor store to get some more, up until about 4 o'clock when I had to be at work. And I'm going into work fully tweaked out, fully drunk. And while working at Carrabba's, I'm a server and I'm bartending or whatnot. Anytime somebody would give me cash for their bill, I'd comp it. I'd comp the entire check and just keep the money. Because my spending was getting so out of shape that the only way for me to maintain was to steal. And again, just like with how I was in college, I'm not really trying to bully anybody. And I'm, now I'm doing it professionally, which they call that grand larceny, you know what I mean? But, if a table's tab was $75 and they gave me $100 bill and told me to keep the change as a tip, I'd go comp as much of that check as I could. I'd take it from $75 down to like $20. So now I just got $80 in my pocket. And I did that for close to a year, man. I did that for like 6 to 8 months. And in the end days of it, it got to where I was completely comping the check, like deleting deleting everything. Like I'd ask the manager for a card and I'd go over, swipe it, delete. So where they left me $150 cash, that's all in my pocket now. And I've always been good at bartending and serving. I've always averaged between like $200-$300 a night. Now I'm getting like $500-$600 a night. purely off of doing the wrong thing, but it's fueling me because you got to think I'm up for 3-4 days at a time now, just drinking and doing coke. And sure enough, it all came to a head one day. I went to work. My manager calls me in the back, and he's like, "Yeah, man, he's got my general manager's got me in front of the computer on a Zoom call with the regional manager, and they got like all my paperwork laid out, and they're like, you've got like $8,000 of unaccounted for cash sales that have been deleted or comped." And they got it to where they can clearly see
that you deleted it.
Yeah, well, they can tell whenever a check's been comped or something's been deleted off before it's been cashed out, and then afterwards. And all mine are done afterwards. Like, I'll cash it out, then at the end of the night, I'd go back in, swipe, delete everything. So it's, you know what I'm saying? And they could tell. And my GM asked me straight up, he's like, "Can you explain to us, why you have $8,000? $8,000 is no small feat. A couple hundred usually at any restaurant, and they'll put you on like a list, like be aware, be on lookout." I'm at $8,000 of deleted and comped food over like a 9-month span, and they're like, "Can you explain this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I stole it." And they're just kind of bewildered that I was just upfront about it. And the regional manager, she was just like, "Okay, well, I guess we appreciate you being honest about it, And my manager, my GM, he's a solid dude. He knew what I was going through at the time. And I commend him for sure, because he didn't press charges. He just let me go. He gracefully let me out. And then from there, this is I'm just plummeting worse and worse in every avenue and situation I got myself into. I had been cutting hair part-time out of the barber school. I had just started doing that like a year or two prior. So I kind of focused all my time and energy at the barber school, but it was, again, I'm only doing enough to just suffice my drugs and alcohol. Moved in with my mom, which we don't really get along like that. So that didn't last long. Before you know it, man, I don't have anywhere to really go. And the owner of my barber shop was like, you can stay. We had like a little cot in the back in one of the rooms. He was like, "You can stay here at the shop." And that's where, as I'm plummeting down, it started to plateau, because I was in my own right. I had enough stability. Like I tell people, I was homeless with a place to sleep, because I couldn't shower unless I was at a friend's house, or unless I went to like Patterson Community Center and paid paid $3 to go use their shower.
Well, like, quit plummeting because you just like accepted it.
Well, I kind of would even joke like, I'm homeless. Like, anytime I would mess with a girl, I'd be like, you just mess with a homeless dude, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you should think better of yourself, like, and again, like, I was very much so accepting failure, accepting defeat. Prior to this, I was trying to do everything I can to at least stay afloat. And the moments of me sleeping out of the barbershop, man, I was just like, I had accepted that I'm a failure. I've completely depleted all resources, all family, all friends. I wasn't ever suicidal, but I was ready to die. Like, I'm 34. I think I was 34, going into 35, and I was like, I've lived a good life. To me, I was like, I've done enough in one lifetime to where, if God wants to take me out, it wouldn't be soon enough. And yeah, man, I had a buddy who, one of my friends I grew up with, he was on fentanyl real bad, fentanyl and coke, and he went to rehab. And he got out of rehab, and me and him share the same birthday. We're both Tauruses, April 25th. And yeah, what?
My ex-wife is a Taurus, but she's so hard-headed that for 20 years she said she was an Aries. That's how hard it is.
What is she, April 20th?
21st.
21st. That's my brother's birthday. Yeah. They are the cusp. My brother's April.
Cusp, yeah.
So
I was going to ask you earlier when you said your birthday was in April.
My big brother's April 21st. He will attest that April 21st, they are Tauruses. So, Mine's April 25th, and a good friend of mine who I grew up with, who is just as bullheaded as I am.
No wonder he was in 50 fights.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. My brother who's a Taurus, that's my biological big brother.
Oh, okay.
My brother was in 50 plus street fights at least. He was a Scorpio.
I've been in probably 50 fights.
Hey,
you ain't got to be.
I'm just saying, dude. Like,
I mean,
they sting. but yeah, no. So my buddy, he goes to rehab, and he was bad off on fentanyl, and he calls me up, and he's like, "Man, you gotta go get some help." And he knows if you tell me to do something, I'm not gonna do it. So instead of him like kind of pushing the whole rehab thing on me, he would just call me up every day or two,
just talk to you,
and just talk to me, and just kind of see how I'm doing, see where I'm at, tell me how his life is improving, and how his life is gradually getting better.
They talk about in the AA book they don't really ever say sponsor.
Yeah,
but they talk about like the attitude in which a sponsor is the most effective, and it talks about like there's no fees to pay, there's no axes to grind, there's no like pretty much you want to talk to people in which like, hey, like my life, this is the way my life's going.
Yeah,
you don't want to be like,
it's like I can relate to you, and I know exactly what you're going through and where you're at.
Yeah,
this is how I got out of it.
Yeah, if you're interested.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, he knew if I didn't want to do it, I wasn't going to do it. And I kind of teetered and tottered with the thought of it a lot over the next few weeks. And I never forget the day I got into it with one of my plugs one day because he wouldn't front me some coke. You know, he was asking me about this other guy that he fronted that ran off on him. And
what's a bad time to ask somebody to front?
If there was a bad time, I picked it because he was like, "Man, you seen so and so?" I'm like, "No, he ran off with 7 grams," and I'm like, "Damn, that's crazy. Let me get a ball." And he's like, "No, dude." He's like, and it's not like he didn't have it. He had it. He just, the way I look at it, he didn't want to put me in that situation of now I've got to be done with you. You know, like on Goodfellas, and whenever he's like, you know, after he gets caught up and he's snitching or whatever, and he gets caught with drugs, and he goes and asks Paulie, you know, I just need something, and Paulie gives him that money. He's like, now I got to turn my back on you. I think that's what my plug was doing in that moment. And mind you, this same plug had went out and bought me a phone because I didn't have a phone for so long, and he was tired of me calling him off of like Facebook Messenger. Yeah, and like I was literally calling people off of the computers at the barbershop, like no joke. And so he went out and bought me a phone and was paying the bill. And I remember cussing him out. I'm like, dude, you're not gonna front me after all the business I bring you, after all the free haircuts, you know, not mentioning how he pays my phone bill and shit. But
it's funny how we don't see that stuff.
Yeah, I'm just like, dude, I'm like, and again, when you're deep in drugs and alcohol, you don't see your own bullshit. You only see everybody else's. And I'm like, man, I'm like, whatever, dude. I'm like, fuck you, don't hit me up for shit.
My heroin dealer, we were all childhood friends, and then we all kind of created like almost like a syndicate kind of.
Yeah.
Where we were all involved in criminal activity, but like say someone's going to buy ecstasy, we would all throw in and buy, you know,
big quantity
pills.
Yeah. Get the jar, dude.
So like at some point in our lives, one of our friends started selling heroin.
Got you.
And I mean, I don't know if you can play a tape forward, but all of us became addicted to heroin, and it destroyed all of our lives.
Yeah.
Well, throughout our journey, one of the times I ran out of gas going to his house, and like out of our friends, I was like on the higher up.
Yeah, okay.
So like
more level-headed, more.
Now I'm in a position that I'm running out of gas to get to his house.
Got you.
So he comes, picks me up. He pretty much like shows me love. He's like, I'm gonna put gas in your truck. I need you to be here at 8 a.m. Can you be here at 8 a.m.? So like he's on drug court. He can't drive. So now I'm driving with him back and forth. Like I'm taking him to drug court. He has a dog walking company. And you know, I'm useful in that industry. Number one, I know what good heroin is and not good heroin.
Yeah.
But like he put me to work pretty much. So there was probably a year or two hung out in that space and like I was took care of. But I got the bright idea to start doing meth.
Why is that? Why is it heroin and meth kind of coexist?
I don't know.
I've never understood that.
My brother was really upset with me doing heroin, and I had been around him cooking meth since I was 12.
Yeah.
And I never touched the meth, but he was upset with me doing it. That does make sense.
Yeah.
But one time he was like, I had went through a bad withdrawal on heroin, and afterwards I like we lived in the same house. I went to his side of the house, and he's like, I mean, fuck, dude, you do heroin. If you want to do meth, it's on the table.
Yeah.
And I did it. Well, then my friend, he was like very, very quickly, he was like, you have got to like, this is out of control, you know?
Yeah.
But there were times in my life where he would step in, and try to like intervene. Like there was a time in which he was like, if you like cross this line, we were like standing at a sidewalk selling dope outside of his house.
Yeah.
He's like, if you cross this line and you quit the meth, like I'll pay you $1,000 in 2 weeks. And like, he thought like, okay, I'm talking to the old Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Bring him back.
yeah. And he would do shit like that all the time. And I owe him $1,000. You know, but he would do shit like that all the time. And like, there's a lot of people in our friend group that are like, fuck that dude, you know?
Yeah.
But we spent so much time together. Like, I did see his heart. Like, he was doing exactly what we were doing prior. He just introduced a different drug.
Correct.
And then we all fucking fell susceptible to it. Like, it ain't on him, you know?
No, because if you want to, you're going to do it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, he wasn't integral in me getting sober, but he tried. I mean, there was times where he tried to get me off heroin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and with me, per se, like, that was kind of a light bulb moment because I've always been the type to be like, you know, I compare my struggles to other people's struggles. And it's very easy for me to justify my actions. Like, you know, so with my cocaine addiction, I'd be like, well, at least it ain't fentanyl. You know, I'm not doing heroin or fentanyl and shit. You know what I'm saying? So,
the one thing about cocaine is like, if I were to go back, cocaine, I would never do it. It's at the bottom of the list. And the reason is,
and when I was in rehab, they were like, oh, dude, you weren't an addict. I'm like, what?
It's not even that. It's because it does put me in an addict. Like, okay, when I do the heroin, yeah, I become addicted, and it's like more of a body addiction. Like, but there is not a time in which I don't do heroin and they go, oh, fuck, I need more heroin.
Yeah.
And then like meth, I would do meth, and then like I'd stay up for 5 days. I wouldn't even search for meth.
Oh, coke, you got about an hour.
You got about an hour.
Yeah.
It would make me feel so, like, not dirty, like as hygiene, but dirty, like an addict.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would make, like, I would do it, and I wouldn't even get high, and I'd be like, I just need more.
So
it just make me want more.
I think, and I figured this out about myself, but because I am such a neurodivergent person, and I'm such a people person, and alcohol was really my first drug. If you combine alcohol with coke, it creates, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a whole nother drug in your body.
I agree to that.
And so I didn't necessarily have to do coke as often as
somebody on coke.
As long as I was drinking alongside the coke, I'm good. However, they had to go hand in hand. So I would never drink without getting coke, and I would never get coke without drinking.
Where did you go to treatment?
I went to Buffalo Valley.
Hole in Wall or Castilian Springs?
Castilian Springs.
That's where I graduated. That's my last treatment center.
That's the best decision I ever made in my life, man. So to go back to where I asked my plug to front me, and he turned me down. I went to another guy who he threw me like a few G's, and I had to pay him back like $40 the next time I saw him. Mind you, I'm sleeping at the barbershop. I wake up that next day at the barbershop, and my plug who didn't front me, he cut my phone off. You know, I guess he after talking bad to him, it's not really a good idea to talk bad to the person paying your phone bill.
No.
But he cut my phone off, and I'm fresh out of coke. I don't got any more weed. I'm down to like the last sips of a tall boy I had, and I'm broke. I got like $8 to my name, and I remember trying to figure out how I'm going through my phone that doesn't work, trying to get the contacts to call on the barbershop phone these people I know that sell, but they're not answering because they don't know who the fuck's calling them. So then I'm having to go to Facebook Messenger on the computers to like reach out to people, to have them reach out to people, to let them know that that's me calling. Like I was jumping through so many hoops and hurdles just to try to get somebody to front me. Meanwhile, the guy who fronted me shows up to the barbershop and he's like, I need my money, dude. He had his own stuff going on and he was like, I need that. I think it was like $40 or something. He's like, I need that money. And I'm like, fuck, because I'm already trying to muster up. I'm trying to get money together. You know, the barbershop's closed this day, so I can't cut hair. You know how it is when you're living that life. I've already pretty much used all my resources for anybody that would literally loan me money. They know good and damn well they're not gonna get it back. So I'm figuring out what to do. And I just had an epiphany, man. I was like, fuck this shit, dude. I called up my boys from college that we used to throw the parties and stuff with. I asked like 2 or 3 of them for $20 each. My one friend sent me 40. I used that to pay off the guy I owed money to. 1 or 2 other people sent me like $20. Called one of my buddies that I grew up with. Told him I was going to rehab. At this time, I hadn't even made the call yet. I was just telling them I was going to rehab because I needed to accumulate some money just to pay off these debts and to be able to get some more drugs and alcohol. But I remember once I did it, I was just like, I mean, fuck it, dude. Like, I was literally like, I told myself at worst, I would have 30 days to sleep in my own bed, to eat. I've been to jail numerous times before. I've been booked over like 30 times in Rutherford County Jail, no felonies. Don't know how the fuck I pulled that one off. I told you, my mom worked in the legal system. Let me knock on wood. Never had a felony.
Let me knock on it.
Yeah, never had a felony. I had court coming up. I remember my buddy who went and got clean. He was telling me about how, going to rehab looks good on you when you go to court dates. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, dude. Like at worst, I'll spend 30 days in a bed where I can actually get some sleep. I'll have 30 days worth of meals, and it'll look good for me in court. And at Buffalo Valley Cumberland Springs, man, I had such a light bulb moment when I found out that, alcoholism and addiction is a mental disease. And I've always, like I said, stemming back to childhood, like I've always felt like something's wrong with me, or that I'm different, or that I don't fit in, or I've always had something playing in the back of my mind. And when I was deep in my addiction and alcoholism, it was louder than ever.
They're trying to remove addiction, substance abuse disorder from the DSM-5.
What's that?
It's like mental health. Like every 20 years or 10 years, they make a new one, and then there's research, and it says this is a mental health disorder, and this is the things we've learned. And so substance abuse disorder is in there, but it's took a long time to get in there.
Correct.
Like when they wrote the AA book, it wasn't in there.
No, sure wasn't.
That's why there's the doctor's opinion and not the doctor's paper.
Because oftentimes people think like you being addicted is a choice,
but they're trying to get it in the state of Tennessee, or overall, they're trying to get it into chronic illness.
It is.
So when you go to a hospital, you're treated as such. When you are because now, say you're drunk, you come to an AA meeting. I don't know the common policy across the world, but in Rutherford County, if you come drunk to an AA meeting, we're going to try to get you to treatment. If you don't have insurance, we're going to take you to the hospital and then tell them we're going to coach you at a drunk state to tell them that you think you're going to kill yourself.
Got you. That way they have to.
Yes. So then you can get 3 to 4 days clean,
detox, all that stuff.
Yes. And then you can maybe find treatment afterwards.
Yeah. And I will say I've heard of different people, quitting cold turkey or stuff like that. Treatment was the best decision I've ever made. I've made the decision to violate probation on purpose, knowing that I'm going to jail. But when I made the decision to go to Buffalo Valley to try to get help, I never knew it came with like the teaching aspect. I thought it was just gonna be like jail. I thought it was gonna be like 30 days where you just gotta, confine yourself to one area, read, watch some TV. I didn't know it had like classes and AA meetings and stuff like that. I remember like my second or third day there when we were reading over the 12 steps, I raised my hand. I was like, yeah, we went over this shit yesterday. And they're like, no, this is every day.
Yeah, we're gonna do it every day.
Yeah. And I was like, oh damn. I was like, we already did this lesson, dude. Like, but I remember hearing that it's a chronic mental illness when you suffer from alcoholism and addiction. And that was the first real light bulb moment I had, because as much as I wanted to stop and as much as I would try to stop when I was active in addiction, I couldn't, man. Like, I mentally did not know what to do. I didn't know the steps to take. I didn't know the proper procedures. So that helped me a lot, knowing that. Were you there? Was Mr. Doug the director? Man, Mr. Doug, dude, that, not to bring race into it, but to see a black man in his position telling me his story, it resonated a little bit more with me, because I've always felt like I've always known the potential's there. And like I said, I've always rubbed elbows with people in higher places. So when he would give his lessons, I felt like he was talking directly to me.
I think it's important until that happened in my life, which happened at Buffalo Valley.
Yeah.
A guy named Greg, I think. But when he was telling his story, he was one spot under Doug.
Got you.
And he would tell his story maybe twice while you were in. So he told it every
2 weeks. Yeah.
But he was telling my story.
Yeah.
Until then, I thought,
yeah, like, dude, like,
I'm too far, man.
Yeah, dude. And I honestly, like I said, I've always had like that woe is me, like, you don't get it, and to hear him telling his story and the way he delivers it. I don't know if you remember how he's like, it's not like preaching, but he controls the room.
Yeah,
and
he's articulate. He's very
it's very articulate. He controlled it. And I remember he was teaching one day about, you gotta get out of the driver's seat and you gotta let God drive.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking like, well, shit, my license is suspended anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fuck, I don't need to be driving nowhere.
When they started talking about sponsorship, which I've been in and out of recovery for 10 years prior. And I wasn't in recovery. I was in and out of the rooms.
Got you, yeah.
But when they were talking about like getting a sponsor, I was like, dude, I need a PO for like I needed a PO for about 10 years, dude. Because I knew that anytime I was under any type of disciplined space, I always was able to do it.
You get it, yeah, you get it while you have to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like if you put me, whatever, military, if you put me in treatment, if you put me in some type of inner work,
I'll get through it, yeah.
I'll like excel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Same.
immediately become the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's like you're the ideal student. You're the one who's, but
as soon as I leave,
it's over with. Like, and that's why I love the accountability of being in sober living. And I'll get to that. But when I let God drive, I remember, step one, admitting that we're powerless. And, step two, acknowledging that you need a higher power and stuff. And when I got to step three, and I'm doing these steps in treatment, and I remember like just sitting there crying, man. Like I was bawling. I cried the day before because I had 7 pairs of underwear. I had 7 pairs of socks. And in the last year or two, being homeless and sleeping out of the barbershop and stuff, I lost everything. And I would have the same socks on my feet for like a week straight, dude. And I remember when, you go to treatment, they ask if you need any clothes or, T-shirts, socks, underwear, anything like that. And I said, yeah. And I'll never forget sitting there. I was crying in the shower one night because I was like, dude, I've eaten 3 meals a day and showered
every
day for the last week. And that was the first time I had done that in over a year. And I was just so grateful for it, man, because I took that stuff for granted. You know, I didn't shower when I was homeless. I didn't eat every day.
Maybe there's a correlation between where we're at prior to treatment and where we're at in treatment. Like, if we're going to be successful, like, based on, like, making a decision to go to treatment is better than the life I'm living. Like, a lot of people, let's say you have a job, you haven't hit rock bottom, you got all this stuff going on, you got a girl, you got family,
and
kids,
you're forced to go to treatment.
You're forced to go to treatment.
Yeah.
Like, no, that sucks.
It's not going to, yeah.
But when you're
it's
at
a burden
space
at that
where you're
point.
like, nah, this might be
treatment
better.
Treatment was dude, like I said, it was an upgrade for my life.
Yeah.
Like, I had a bed, I had food, you know, I had, like you said, in that setting, you know, I've always been a scholar and educated. So, you know, we got to go to class, take notes, present, stuff like that. I'm killing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We do karaoke on Fridays, you know, like.
We missed that.
Yeah, no, in the environment, it was such an upgrade. And truly, when they try to show you how you're able to live a sober life, like, it resonated with me so much, because hell, in my active addiction and alcoholism, my life was plummeting and had literally just dropped off. I had no life. And there in treatment, you know, it started to make sense. And when I gave it up and I said, God, I need you to figure this out for me. I can't do it. It was like everything got brighter. A light bulb went off and I could see clearly. I'll never forget one day, my roommate, I was kind of mad about losing $1. And like, literally a single dollar bill. And I was like, dude, I think somebody stole it or something. I don't know. My roommate was like, let's pray about it, dude. And I was like, what the fuck, what? And he was like, yeah, man, let's just pray about it. And we prayed about me losing this $1. Bro, I'd be damned, the next day, if we go down, it's raining, it's windy. We go down to the cafeteria area or whatnot. And they got like a little bonfire outside for anybody who's out there smoking. It's got like a little tent. And if you're smoking, you go over there. And I remember my roommate who just prayed for me the night before, he was over there and he was kind of in his feelings about his phone call he just had. And I'm like, I was kind of mocking him. And I was like, you want to pray about it? And he was like, yeah, you'll pray for me? I was like, yeah, I'll pray, bro. And I seriously did pray for him. And as we were walking back to the building, he goes, dude, look. And he points, and I look over. And mind you, it's windy as fuck and it's raining. And I look down and there's $1 that's just sitting in the middle of the grass. Like, you can see the grass around it being blown over. Like, there's no reason why this $1 shouldn't have blown into the trees. It's just sitting there as calm as can be on the grass. He's like, that's your $1, bro. That's the $1 we prayed for. And I was like, holy shit. Like, it's kind of a funny story, I feel like, but it's a true story. Like, that was when I realized, like, maybe this praying stuff works, you know, like, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I still do, man.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you know, one of the things is coming out of treatment, getting recovery, then at some point there is like a lull.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, like, has that happened? How have you dealt with it?
Yeah, man, I definitely, you know, actually, if I had to say so, I kind of think I am currently in a lull, not necessarily like not as invested in my sobriety or not as diehard about it. I just got complacent. I got comfortable, I think.
Throughout like my years, I've learned that, okay, my first year, like, to me, like, it's this newfound life. I have a newfound relationship with God.
Amen.
I have a new, like, I'm engaging in tools spiritually that I've never even heard of. I'm engaging with people that
I never would have been around or accepted,
that make me feel like my family.
Yeah.
I'm a part of. I feel like I'm kissing babies and shaking hands.
Yeah.
And everything's going well, you know. And then after the first year, it just drops. And like, then I think I'm doing too much and I start dropping stuff off. I get off this committee, I get off this committee, and then I don't really know. I survived through. I didn't let go of this one commitment, and
Which was what?
it's called Tiki Paw.
Say it again?
Tiki Paw.
Okay.
TCYPAA, which now you're part of. You just got assigned.
Okay.
It's this big party, and every year you bid at wherever it's at. So last year was in Memphis. So we went in Murfreesboro. We haven't done it for 10 years.
Okay.
We bid and we got it. So in 2027, it's going to be in Murfreesboro.
Oh, hell yeah.
And think of like the biggest party you've ever been to where a whole hotel is rented out, no drinking. So DJ, show, all the stuff.
Yeah.
But they rent the whole hotel.
I heard.
Okay. But I didn't let go of that commitment. And I got out of it, and it was rough.
Yeah.
And I became spiritually sick. And then I came out, and I'm like flying, like spiritually on fire.
Yeah.
And then it happens again.
Yeah.
And what I've learned, and there's this guy that writes a book on it, but it's not uncommon. I think that we take it to an extreme as drug addicts or alcoholics. But Richard Rohr writes this book. It's called Falling Upward.
I think I read that in treatment.
You might have.
Yeah.
It's a common book. But what the idea is that everybody's going to spiritually fall and that you should not be afraid of it. That's
correct.
That's where you will find God again. And
Yeah.
it's weird that we find God
At our lowest, man.
at the lowest.
Yeah. And I mean, it's because, especially once you start to believe, when you're at your lowest, man, you don't know what to do. You're lost. You're scared.
You'll accept anything.
Yeah. And what better help than the overall helper? You know what I mean?
One thing probably two things I've learned is during that process of spiritual up and down is that one is that on the uprise, like you're pretty much doing step 2 and 3 again. Like you're removing the prejudice and the ideas and concepts in which you had because your life hasn't been successful and now you're at the bottom again.
Correct.
On the uprise, it seems that we start to wrap our brain and ideas and theoretical things around what God is again.
Mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't work. And then we do it again.
It doesn't hit as hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like two things I've learned is like God will fill my cup up as much as I'm available to allow him to fill up. And us as humans, like we are bound by our human concept. So a lot of times like we go, I'm empty. We fill this little cup up.
Yeah.
He goes, sure, no problem, And then, hey, the next time I might bring a coffee cup. But it seems that I containerize what I'm allowing God in my life.
Yeah.
So over time, throughout that process, I've been able to, one, not be afraid of the fall, like almost dive for it.
Yeah.
And then two, when I'm going to God to say, hey, fill this up, it's more of a boundless.
And I like how you said that too, because it makes sense on why, once our cup's empty, it's easy for us to ask God for help.
Easy.
You know what I mean? And when our cup's full, I think that's when that human form of us, it starts to take over and we lose sight of what all God has done in those moments.
Well, we think we did it.
Yeah. Well, so like with me going through this recent breakup, I never took credit for it. Me and my ex, we prayed every night before we got off the phone. But I do think I lost sight of what I'm supposed to do when it comes to my spirituality. And I think I lost sight of what God is asking me to do. I think I'm not going to say I placed my girlfriend before everything else.
But it became a factor.
She became my happiness. She, on the days that me and her maybe had, because we never really fought, we never really argued. We were friends for years prior to us ever dating. So it was an easy relationship for me to be in. And I wanted to do whatever I could to make her happy. And if she was upset, then I was upset. If, you know, she didn't want to be bothered, then I didn't want to be bothered. Like, she kind of became,
Like the temperature gauge?
not necessarily that. She ultimately became my happiness. So whatever I had to do to make her happy, I was willing to do it. And it made me happy to be able to do that. I've never done right by any, like, I've always been a piece of shit boyfriend, dude. Like,
Yeah, but like you were talking about earlier, if a person walks into a crowd and it's this type of person we were talking about earlier, like, we know,
yeah.
it's kind of the same thing with a woman or a man.
And that could be why we didn't work out.
Like they can feel that
Yeah, like
you're not fully in yourself.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I struggle with the same thing. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And what I noticed is God will remove from you what's not for you. So maybe that relationship in itself wasn't.
My sponsor talks. He's very big on block it or bless it prayer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in the latter days of our relationship, whenever I could kind of see that she was teetering, I prayed straight up and I asked God. I said, God, just, you know, if it be your will, do what you need to do to show me the signs of what I'm supposed to do. Sure enough, you know, she decided to call it quits, and I don't fault her for it. We're still amicable. I think, but it definitely recenters me to where I'm back in front of God with my cup. Like, all right, God. And like you said, I got a bowl this time because I'm like, you know, my cup ranneth over. This time I got some Tupperware. I got, you know what I mean? Like, I got a bucket here. I need it because I did become complacent. I did become comfortable. I thought I had everything figured out. And, you know, my plan is not God's plan. And I have to remember that. I have to assume that what's meant to be and what's meant for me is going to come through seeking Christ. And I, like you said, whenever my cup's full, you know, I like to kind of show my cup off a little bit, you know, might pour you a little sip,
Me
you
too.
know, and I might pour another sip over here. I might take a sip, you know. I don't really go back up there to get any more because I'm still 3/4 full, you know. Even halfway down, I'm like, I'm not gonna beg, you know. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but once it gets to where I'm parched and there ain't nothing in there for me to drink, man, like you said, and that's what this recent breakup, man, it got me to where I realized, like, it's time to recenter my focus. And I thank God because this has been the most emotional and mental stimulating thing I've had to deal with during my sobriety. And I'll be honest with you, bro. Like, you saw when I texted you yesterday, I was like, dude, I can't do this. And you're like, oh yeah, you can. You'll be all right. And I'm like,
you got to think I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not this, but sobriety.
Yeah.
Like, you just want to act as if, like, this is your opportunity to do the things that you should be doing anyways.
And bro, I'm talking about, like, I'm so used to in the past, whenever I have that feel, whenever that my heart starts to hurt, I need a drink or I need to smoke. I'm so used to running to a substance instead of actually sitting with those feelings, sitting with those thoughts. And it hurts, man. It's hard and it sucks. But that's life, man. Like, learning to get through those battles mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, without using a substance. I think I was watching one of your podcasts I can't remember who it was with, but everyone has some type of addiction. Everyone has addictive personalities, addictive traits, tendencies. You know, some of them are good, some of them are bad. And so, you know, maybe I was becoming addicted to the girl. And God was like, nah, back up, bro. Chill out. And it's very humbling, but I consider this a win because I didn't go out and drink yesterday. I didn't smoke. I didn't use. I prayed. I woke up this morning. I felt a little bit better this morning than I did yesterday, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And I'm here with you right now. I feel better openly talking about everything. And guess what? When I leave here, I'm gonna pray and I'm gonna pray and I'm gonna pray. And I think my God is a comedian. I don't know what your God's like, but my God, he's got a funny way of being like, wrong, sit down, let me show you how to do it, you know? And, you know, I'm forever grateful, man. I'm blessed to be in this situation that I'm in. I'm glad to be able to share my story too, because I think a lot of times people just think that, oh, they up and one day just chose to give their life, you know, throw their life away, you know? And no, it's a gradual thing. Like, it's something that you don't foresee coming, and you always think, oh, that'll never happen to me, you know? Oh, I'll never get that far gone. I had a guy in rehab. He was like, I told myself if I ever used a needle, I'd just kill myself. And that was his thing. He was, you know, so like, you never think it's you, but
I sat in trap houses for 3 years with people shooting dope in their arm. Never did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until you did.
Well, the girls would come over and like all the dudes would like go in the back where they needed like somebody, you know, hey, can you stand outside and hang out with the girls? We're gonna go do, you know. I'm like, oh, sure.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be that guy.
Yeah, because they want to like hide it or whatever, but I never did it. I was around cooking meth for 8 years. Never did it.
And I mean, as much as I would go party and be around X and Coke and Molly, I'd be like, nah, man, that's not really. I wouldn't. I mean, I might do it depending on the setting, but I wouldn't dare do it every day until next thing you know, I'm a year and a half, 2 years strong every single day. And now I'm able to look at somebody and be like, I know what you're going through, man. There is a way out. There is a better life. You just got to want it. You legit have to want this. Every day I wake up, I have to choose to do what's best for me when it comes to my mental, my physical, my emotional, and my spiritual health. Instead of taking the easy way out, instead of just, you know, going to use. Now, I know there's some people who have like medications that can lead them into their addiction.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, it's especially with you know, people who have surgeries and stuff of that nature. But
that's a lot of the stories that I've heard in this room.
And I'm blessed to not have to have experienced it that way, because it becomes more of a crutch, I feel like, whenever you deal with a lot of physical pain.
Yeah.
And you're so used to having this medication to subside it. You know, for me, mine was all mental and mental and emotional pain. It was the feeling of not being wanted, not being accepted, the feeling of failure, grief, you know, all these things. Whenever I would experience them, I would just I would drink, I'd smoke, I'd hit a line. And it became so common that I was feeling those same emotions, that I was feeling failure. I was feeling not being accepted because of me using, you know, like, you know, I would understand that nobody would really want me at certain functions because they know I'm going to be drunk as fuck, and they know my mouth's going to go all over. So now I feel even more out of place because of what I chose to do to myself. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was a perpetual motion, dude. And it's hard to break that. When you got that, you're in that spin cycle, you know, some people don't make it out, dude. Some people are just stuck in the spin cycle until they dwindle. And
how is the decision to, you know, not just go to treatment, but be in recovery, do sober living, meeting, sponsorship, how has that benefited your life, you think?
So I actually prayed when I was leaving treatment, because they would always say, like, if you're not scared when you leave here, then you're not ready. And I'd be like, I'm like, fuck that. I was ready to get out of treatment because I was ready to really put it to the test.
Yeah.
Like, I was really ready to see if this is what they taught me and this is all I got to do and use to get over these instances and circumstances. Let's see if it works. And I'll be damned, dude. I was out of treatment for maybe 3 hours. I went to the barbershop. All three of my vices were right there. Dude whose hair I'm cutting, he hits a bump right in front of me. I go outside. This chick offers me a bottle of Fireball. And I swear to God. And one of the other barbers asked me if I want to hit the blunt. And I'm talking, my heart is racing, dude. Like, and this is my first real test, you know? Like, I'm talking about, I'm hours removed from treatment, and it's right there. Like, and I'm like, dude, I didn't just go be sober for 30 days to take a 30-day break. Screw that. So, I was homeless prior to that. So I went to New Beginnings Sober Living, and it's because I was told, you know, it's better to be in that setting if you want to really be serious about your sobriety. And I wanted to be serious about my sobriety. And I remember praying to God multiple times over the next few days about how, Lord, and I don't even know if this makes sense, but I would pray, I would say, God, can you please make this sobriety journey as easy as possible? And I'd be damned if like a week later, I went to jail. Like, I went to court for some old warrants I had. I was out of treatment for 6 days, went to court for FTA, warrants, all types of stuff. And the judge locked me up on the spot it was going to be for like a year or two. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, what the hell? Like, I did not just go to treatment to then sit in jail for the next year, dude. Like, get the F out of here, man. Like, and I went to court on November 20th. My brother, who passed away from cancer, his birthday is November 23rd. So God was seriously protecting me. I didn't notice it at the time, but you know, my brother's passing day, November 7th, his burial day, and his birthday are the 3 days out of the year. You know, you always got your Thanksgiving and Christmases and stuff, you know, where you kind of sulk and grieve and you get in your feelings and you start to drink or use. But for me, it was my brother's passing anniversary and his birthday, where I would be like, fuck everybody else. This is my day to get fucked up, you know? And I think God knew that day was coming. And he was like, you said help you out. You know, you said make this easy for you. So he put me in jail. And I was like, damn, like at first I was expecting it somewhat, and I was bummed out. But as I sat there in jail, it was different this time. I felt good. I felt enriched somehow. And I think, and I strongly believe it's because I went to treatment. I strongly believe it's because of what I learned in treatment. But I remember I talked to the DA and he was like, dude, you're gonna have to, you got like 4 probations running concurrent, and you violated 2 of them 3 times, and you signed language. Like, you gotta go to jail, dude. And I'm like, no, I don't. And he's like, excuse me? I'm like, dude, there's gotta be ways for y'all to give me another chance. I was like, I'm serious about it this time. I was like, dude, I went to treatment, I went to rehab, and I don't want to spend, you know, my first year or 2 of sobriety just sitting in jail rotting. I was like, I'm more susceptible to do drugs in this situation than I would be, you know, if you put me in like a sober living home or something like that. And so I got accepted to this probation, 10 Rocks.
Yeah.
And I love every aspect of probation, every aspect of being in sober living, every aspect of having to take accountability. It's the best thing for me in this stage of my sobriety right now. Because like you said, if you put me in that setting, that classroom setting, or that, you know, that military, I'm going to do what I have to do to prevail. The moment I get too much freedom, that's the moment I start to, you know, I don't go to God first. I don't take adherence to what I've been told. And when I make decisions, 9 times out of 10, I make the wrong decision. If I'm driving down the road and I can't remember whether to turn right or left, which is a 50-50 chance, it don't matter what I choose, it's going to be the wrong one. So being in Threshold, being on 10 Rocks community probation, I look at it like a blessing, man. I don't go into it like, oh, I got to go to these meetings, or I got to report to probation. I got to take a drug test. Like, I'm glad all that's in place, because it reminds me what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this for the betterment of me. I'm doing this for the betterment of my life, which ultimately trickles down to my son's life. And I can honestly say, man, I'm happy, dude. Like, I haven't been happy in quite some time. I can't remember a time of happiness prior to, outside of when I told you I was on that 2020 high of being able to, be on my own and do comedy and all that good stuff. Prior to my brother dying, that's the last time I remember being happy, was back in 2020. And now, I've been able to properly grieve my brother's passing, which I actually did that in treatment. They had us do a fire burning ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And, where you write down everything that you want to say to a person, you read it out loud and you put it in the fire. And I cried, man. I got like 60 grown men who I don't know.
Yeah.
And I just poured my heart to them and to my brother and to God. And I bawled. It broke me to do that, because I knew ultimately I've got to forgive myself for everything that I put myself through. All the problems that I caused for myself. You got to quit beating up on yourself. You got to give yourself some grace. And so I can say without a shadow of a doubt, like, I'm here today through the grace of God, through hard work and dedication. And it feels good, man. It feels good to feel good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to reach out for a substance or a drink, or even someone else's companionship in order to feel good. And again, just that kind of goes with, me going through this recent breakup. Like, that hurt me, bro. That really hurt me. But, I lost track of myself, I feel like, trying to make someone else happy.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not faulting her. She helped me out more than anything getting into this new wave of life that I'm in. And I support her on whatever decision she makes moving on. But
Humans are wildly resilient, and pain like ceases. Like,
yeah,
it hurts.
it does. It's only temporary, and whatever is to replace it, the pain in general, whatever the pain may come from, you never notice how much of a blessing you have coming until you get it.
I mean, imagine the things in your life that you thought were causing you so much pain. Really, you just replaying that pain is just more. You're doing it.
That's the trauma of it. The trauma is you reliving that moment, that you reliving. I saw a post the other day. It said trauma is the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
What?
It said, because you mean to tell me you made it through a situation, but now that you made it through, you replay it in your head and it fucks you up, And I thought that was, like, I'm not saying trauma is dumb, but it's like, to continue to put yourself in that aspect and let it affect you.
Sometimes we don't know that it's okay. This is have you ever heard of little T, big T?
No.
The concept is little trauma, big trauma.
Yeah.
So big trauma, physical abuse.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Or other stuff like that.
And
car wreck.
all that stuff. The PTSD that comes with
little
that,
T is like things that have happened in your life that being unseen and unheard in your own family home.
Yeah.
How does it affect your life throughout?
Gotcha,
So we don't actually understand. A lot of people aren't aware that this has affected me my entire life. So I have like a little T, big T situation in which I didn't realize. So me and my grandfather, we hung out, let's say for 5 years, we watched sports together.
Mm-hmm.
Every sport. When he died when I was 15, I was probably 32 or 33, and all my friends are sports betting. Somehow I had got on, someone was like, bet on this Alabama game. They bet 100. I was like, what do I bet? I bet 100. So I bet 500. I win. So Then I bet on the next game because I'm an idiot. And
Yeah.
I lose, but I still profit like $800.
Yeah.
So I never went back on the sports betting game. Well, it was March Madness later in the year or something. So Memphis Tigers are playing. They're playing UConn.
Oh God.
It's on the thing. They're up by like 12.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, dude, they're doing good. So I bet on them. This white kid had a fucking sports, like a sweatband. He came out, scored like 15 points straight. I was like, it's over.
Yeah.
And I lost the money on the game or whatever. But I had realized that I had never watched an entire sports game or a sports game in general since I was 15 to 32
With your grandpa.
with my grandfather.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a huge moment. Like I'll go, oh, it was that I was like, that it affected me. It was
Yeah.
more along the lines that I looked at it and I go, well, what is it like took from my life? Like break time at work. We don't communicate about sports. I might say something random like LeBron's better than Jordan and then walk off.
Yeah.
You know,
But you're not divulging.
I'm not in.
Yeah.
I'm not invested. I've never been to a friend's house and watched a sports game.
Yeah.
I've never watched UFC.
You never met up with the guys to go sit and watch
Correct.
it. Yeah.
I've never. Yeah, like it's not a part of my household. And there was like part of me that was like for 5 years where I was like, kind of like I even like made like an assumption about like, well, while everybody else is watching sports, I've eliminated out of my life and I'm making money during that time, and that's why I'm ahead. Like,
but really, it's like
it was a response to something in my life.
Yeah.
Which is, I think a lot of people have those.
Yeah, as I've gotten older, similar situation. I've noticed how, to be honest, like I said, my experiences being in an all black setting or being in an all white setting, that code switching that we were talking about, I didn't even realize how much that shaped who I was as a person until I got older. That's why I said whenever you said you made the
shift.
Well, when you said that, I learned if I'm just more genuine and being myself, dude. Up until this recent sobriety, I didn't know who I was. I still am learning who I am because
Me too. Don't worry.
Yeah, I've always conformed to be who I'm expected to be or who I feel like they would want to see.
Yeah.
Versus me just genuinely being me. I don't even know who me is. And that came from my childhood. I've always had a problem with abandonment because, my mom kind of threw me under the bus, and I was like 17. She was like, "Get out of the house. You're not doing right. You think you're grown, so go be grown."
She did the right thing, buddy.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know the situation, but
I'm a firm believer that you're supposed to love your child regardless.
Love them, yeah.
But putting them in harm's way is not always the best. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, keep them if they're doing bad, keep them closer. Don't just send them out there while doing bad to learn bad and then be even more. You know what I mean?
There's like a line that a parent has to make.
Yeah, I agree, and
I feel like if anybody in your life, but say a child, is moving in the right direction, I'm all on board.
Yeah.
I'm willing to help. If you're going in the wrong direction, I ain't going with you.
Well, as a kid, though, it's like, how did you get here?
Yeah. In my life, like, I have acknowledged that I experienced unconditional love from my parent, but I did not experience guidance.
Got you.
Which is... And some people experience guidance, but no.
I was about to say I'm the opposite. I was told what to do and how to do it, but there were stipulations with it.
The reason that I was so grasped and enamored by the recovery community was because of both.
Okay.
The unconditional love and the guidance that I had never had. Because
Gotcha.
Naturally, the community is a guiding community.
Yeah.
There's literally steps. There's a sponsorship.
Yeah.
But then there's unconditional love. These people love you no matter what,
Yeah. I can honestly say the unconditional love, I've always felt like there's been a condition in which somebody wants me around. The guidance, though, is what I can easily adhere to because I've always had structure and guidance. Like I said, my mom made me read encyclopedias. I had a certain expectations when it came to grades, and and stuff like that. And the unconditional love part, I still struggle with because I feel like a burden. Like even my sponsor gets on to me because I don't call him. Like he'll hear me sharing at a meeting about something that I never talked to him about.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, "What the hell, dude?" And I'm like, "I didn't want to bother you with that." I'm like, I didn't want to be a burden with my problems. And he's like, "You're not a burden, bro. Like that's why I'm here, is to just sit and talk with you. No judgment, no bias, no nothing like that." And I still struggle because in my mind, I have to meet certain expectations. I have to, this chameleon mindset I have, like when I'm doing good, I have to maintain doing good. And when I'm fucking up, I have to maintain fucking up. And I don't want to ever be a burden to someone else. So it's like I try to carry that load myself, which will eat away at you. It will definitely eat away at you. So luckily for me now, I have found God. I found my higher power. Whenever I'm sulking, like here lately, when I'm in my feelings, I'm just talking to God. I'm like, "Look, bro, and when I say I talk to God, like, because I told you my God's a comedian. So I talk to him straight up. Like, I'm like, "Look, dude, I don't know what you got going on." I'm like, "I don't know why you're playing with me right now, or maybe I'm playing myself." I'm like, "But let's just get through this chapter. I'm done reading this chapter. Let's figure out, you know what I mean? Like, because, at the end of the day, it is written, this is already written out. Now I have the free will to go about it how I choose. But if I don't have anyone else in my corner, I know that I got God, because he's been there the entire time I've been fucking up, prevailing, self-harming, self-sabotaging. And the moment that I reach out to him and ask for help, it's like, without missing a beat, he's like, "Yeah, I got you. I was waiting on you to ask, And that's a blessing, man, to be able to have that understanding. Because like I said, I'm quick to stand there with my cup's empty. I'm like, "Oh, spare some change, bit of porridge, yeah." But that's easy for me to ask when I have nothing to give. And then when I got a full cup, I got a full plate, I'm like a dog. I go in the corner and I like hoard it. I don't want and I might share some, or I might let somebody else get some, but I'm so grateful for it that like I bask in it, not realizing that, he's gonna pour continuously as long as you allow him.
Yeah.
And so I'm still learning, man. I'm coming up on 10 months of sobriety, which is freaking crazy. I can't remember the last time I did something for 10 months consistently. Other than maybe work at a job, I ain't done like for 10 months consistently choosing to do the next right thing, choosing to do what's best for me and my future and my son. It's so badass, dude. Like, when I tell people, I've always heard it, and it used to piss me off when people would be like, it started with the damn infomercials. "Oh, it's so easy. If I can do it, you can do it." And I used to be like, "Motherfucker, you're on TV. I ain't on TV." You know what I mean? And like now, for the first time, and as long as I can remember, I'm able to tell somebody while trying to help them and show them, especially people who knew me from my past, like, if I can do it, like, because they know, they used to come to the barbershop at 4 a.m. and we'd get drunk together. You used to see me sleeping on your couch. You used to front me drugs. So for you to see the situation I was in, it's like you have no excuse to not be able to at least make that change, but you have to want it, man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm learning as I'm managing this sober living house. I saw a post where you said, I think it might have been Scott or someone you were talking to, and I think the guy said, I used to be able to call them as soon as they walk in the house, who's gonna make it and who's not gonna make it. And he said he had one dude who had like great community around him, great family, this, that, and the other. And he was out in 2 weeks. And then there was another dude who was like walking 5 miles a day to the I can't see, he was walking 5 miles a day to somewhere. Now that guy's got like his own house, his own family, his own business and stuff.
You can't call it, dude.
Yeah, you can't call it because
everybody that works for me, they're all those guys.
Yeah.
And Scott.
Yeah, dude, I gotta go cut his hair actually. What time is it?
Scott is like 12:30.
Okay, yeah, I got a little bit. But and that's the thing, man. Like if
Scott couldn't say words.
Yeah.
Like he was so timid. He could not communicate with me.
Now he won't shut up.
He won't shut up. Dominic could not make it up the stairs. It took him hours to make it up the stairs because he was on so much mental health medication from the treatment center that he thought like he was gonna fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was. I would have bet you $1 million that Dominic was not going to get sober.
Yeah. I mean, you never know, man. Everyone has it in them. They just got to fight.
I think there's a certain place where people have to get to, which you got to early in your, like, you don't have to go to so many.
Yeah.
You got to a place where you're like, I'm going to use these tools and see if they work.
Yeah.
A lot of people will use one of the tools or two of them, but they won't go, let's see if it works.
Yeah.
Like in Dominic's life, that's what happened. He was like, I got nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just do the steps. And if it better work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, this is it. It's my last way. My last chance. No, I definitely, like I said, man, knowing that, this is a disease in my brain that is just like the example I was told, it's like diabetes. Once you find out you got diabetes, now it's up to you to maintain every day, your sugar intake, whether you got low sugar, high sugar, whatever it may be, you gotta be able to acknowledge, control, and figure it out. And that's pretty much how I treat my sobriety. Like if I'm in a situation where I think if I'm in a situation where there's too much sugar around, I probably should leave here before my blood sugar goes up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm in a situation where, I feel like I'm getting dizzy or lightheaded because it's all the same, but I love that it's finally being acknowledged that this is something that they're going to suffer from for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And, they need help. You need to be able to acknowledge that. I feel like for me, at least, that was the first serious step. And then from there, okay, what do I have to do to make sure that I don't, get my blood sugar up? How do I not, relapse? How do I not use? How do I not drink? How do I get past these thoughts and these emotions? And when I learned a few, I was like, oh, I want to learn more. I was like, dude, this is, what I'm saying? And I feel like every day that I put forth the effort, I'm learning something else about myself. Every single day I'm finding out what I can and can't withstand. I'm finding out what I can and can't do. I'm finding my range when it comes to certain things, and it's beautiful. But at the same time, it's like, it's kind of bittersweet because it's like, damn, I'm 36. If I could have done this earlier. But that's not my story. My story wasn't for me to have things figured out in my 20s.
Yeah.
I know plenty of guys who they lived the ideal perfect life, 20s, 30s, and now they're starting to go through a lot of stuff that they weren't really facing and they were trying to avoid. And I talk to them and I tell them, like, dude, there's no time limit on it, It's a marathon. It's not a race. You're going to be running for the rest of your life. Just take your breaks when you can, take a water break, especially, and tighten up before you get back out there and run again. So,
well, I'm proud of you, man.
Appreciate it, brother.
I've also enjoyed sitting with you.
Yeah, I learned more from you from this than I've even known. Yeah.
At the end of every episode, I ask everybody the same question.
All right.
and you answer the question with the question. So the question, and you have all the time in the world to answer,
Okay.
and then it's over.
Okay, bet.
Okay. What's your deepest fear?
That's a good one, man. My deepest fear would definitely is for me not to reach the levels in which I know I'm capable of. My deepest fear is falling short of my expectations due to my own actions.